I'm Captain Logan, and look, it's Austin. The day goes.
Wow.
And it's taken us forever, but we are finally ready to tackle the end of a beloved trilogy for Austin. It is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Austin, a movie that I don't think I had seen since the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
and
I
a movie
ever
I've
went
seen,
back to this.
a billion times, and I still remember the first time I saw it. Like, not just I remember being in the theater, like I remember the trip to the theater. Like, it was like a big event for me as a kid. 'Cause I'm like 10 when this comes out.
Sure. And so you're at a real impressionable age. This is like your Star Wars or like your Indiana Jones or something. I mean, I know you also liked those things, but like just for new contemporary things. Like, I know this was that kind of a franchise for you.
Well, I think too, because like I also had Lord of the Rings, but Lord of the Rings is like slightly too early. Where like I'm a little too afraid of Gollum to see the last two in the theater.
Oh wow!
So like this was like a big like, oh man, like the finale of this big thing I love. I get to see it in the theater, and it's like a really big deal.
Yeah, and of course, I've got a way different experience because I'm older than you, and I'm by the time this comes out, it's a year before I get married. I was working at the mortuary when this released. I was actually working at the movie theater when the first movie released. So senior year of high school, the first movie comes out, and that's the year I meet my wife. And then this comes out the year right before I marry Sarah. And I'm sure she and I saw this in the theater. I do remember a little bit about my theater experience with this because all I could think was, oh, it's Matrix Revolutions again, except like entertaining. And I'm sure I talked about that on our last one, but like
I think so.
This trilogy hits. Yeah, it hits all the same like kind of dramatic beats and kind of falls into all the trilogy tropes that we were doing in the early mid 2000s, and we'll talk about that as we watch it. But especially the blank white void thing.
Yeah, because even because I watched all three of them, not exactly back to back. I watched the first two yesterday, and then I watched this one today, and like I don't think I've ever fully put together how much Return of the Jedi is in this movie until rewatching it.
I definitely didn't have that thought until you said it, just because all I can do when I watch these movies is think about the Matrix.
Well, and I have a big contemporary question for you when we get there.
Okay, cool.
That I was gonna hit you up about it on Facebook, and then I went, nah, I'm going to save it for the show.
He's like, we've got 3 hours. I had that too. There were a few things I really wanted to say to you while I was watching it, and I was like, I need to save them, or we're not going to have anything to talk about.
Well, and this was like an hour ago, so I was like, I can wait an hour.
Sure. Guys, we're going to try to go ahead and jump into it pretty quickly. We've got an almost 3-hour movie to watch tonight. Austin is really going to run on point with this. This is very much his franchise. He knows this way better than I do. And we've waited too long, so the other two movies have not stuck with me super well, unfortunately. I did watch this movie in preparation, but I didn't have time to watch the other two because that would have been, 11 hours out of my week.
Yeah, and at least the first one's not like super relevant because it's basically a 2-part movie, and then it's also the strangest 2-part movie until we get Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, because there's so much that starts in 3 that you would think would be set up in 2.
Yeah, it does have that.
Strange.
It does have that Matrix thing where it's. And like Back to the Future to some degree, and a lot of these kind of like cheating trilogy things, where 2 and 3 are basically one long movie, except the third movie here is, if not retconning stuff, like you said, like suddenly introducing things that you think would have been relevant last time. Like, it does feel a little bit
retconning. Like it's a whole mix of things.
I think I like the word backtracking better than retconning.
Yeah, that's fair too.
And that's absolutely what this is doing. But I gotta tell you, I had a really fun watch with this. Like, I didn't remember liking it that well in the theater. I thought it had really jumped the shark and gone too far off the rails. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you this question real quick before we start. Do you think this, because you and I did this completely differently. I haven't watched that last movie since we did our commentary on it, and that was, what, a year ago? Maybe a little less than a year ago?
A little bit more. I didn't realize it was a full year, but it's like a year and 3 months, I think. Robert was telling me the other day.
Well, you and I are in the middle of about 19 different projects. So it's
I know,
not
it's crazy.
surprising, really, when it's months and months away. Where it's like, oh yeah, we're finally getting around to this again. Simpsons has been like that. It'll be a full year before we get back to that. I'm like, oh really? How did that much time pass? So I don't know. We live in internet time now. It's totally different. But I want to ask you this question: do you think this movie watches better in close proximity to the other two, or is it better to have some space in between them? Because I feel like I had a better watch of this than I might have if I'd watched it right after two, but I'm not sure. And you just watched them together.
It's hard to say because I almost always watch them in close succession. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings, where like I'll be like, "Oh, I want to watch one of those," and then I'll end up just watching the trilogy.
Yeah.
I have that with Pirates, where it's like, "Oh, I feel like watching one of those," and I just watch all of them. So it's been so long since I've watched three, but considering like everybody hated this when it came out, and it's been reappraised a little bit more now.
Has it?
Yeah, I think in like the last like 10 years, especially after 4 and 5, there's been people kind of going back and going, well, I mean, it's not bland.
I don't know how
Like,
far.
it's entertaining.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like, have my standards really lowered because this was of a quality that I did not remember, and I think a lot of that must have to do with how dull and uninspired and rote I have been feeling blockbusters have been by and large for the last several years. I'm sitting here like, yeah, this is stupid, but I don't care. Like, there's life in it. There's blood in its veins. And
Yeah, I think the
it
best way
couldn't
to
jump the
sum it
shark
up-
too far from me. I was just entertained by it, and the characters came alive. And yeah, they're maybe a little bit two dimensional. Like they've got their prevailing character traits, and each of them but at least each of them has a clear goal. There's that. It's a convoluted story, but the characters are pretty straightforward. Like, I get what they're about anyway.
Well, that's another thing I had this rewatch is one of the biggest issues people had was like it's really hard to follow. Like every character, every character's doing their own thing, and you have to keep track of who wants what. And I think especially now in like the world where you have to watch like 20 movies to understand what's happening in an Avengers movie.
It feels quaint in comparison.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have to follow like 5 characters.
I think, and you and I did talk about this off camera, I think the correct way to watch this, or at least just for me anyway, was in 3 separate outings. Like, I watched this over 3 days, an hour at a time, and I felt like I needed a little bit of space in between it. Like, the criticism that the last 2 of these, or not last 2, there's 5 now, but like the other 2 movies in the trilogy are too long and the pacing is wonky is absolutely right. I think if this could have, and obviously it wouldn't be, if this could have been released in like one of the most expensive movies ever made, like of course this wouldn't happen, but if this could have been released as a like streaming miniseries or something where you want to see it on the big screen, but if it could have been released where you're supposed to watch it in episodes, I think the whole thing watches better. Like, I don't really want to sit down and watch this all at one time. We're about to.
Well, this movie was also almost, I think, 20 minutes longer. And
wow.
I think the producer was like, hardcore, we're sticking to it. And then at the last second, I think, cut 20 minutes from it. But
I wonder what those looked like. Is there an extended cut of this? I don't think there is.
No.
Well, it doesn't feel like anything's missing, does it?
We'll get there, but
does it feel
sorry,
like,
what's that?
Does it feel like anything is missing though?
I don't think so. Like, there's a big deleted scene that I'll talk about like towards the middle that I think some people really wish was in it, and I'm fine that it's not.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. We're already 10 minutes into the video. This is going to be a 3-hour movie, so we better get started. Everybody, make sure that you're at timestamp 0, however you're going to watch the movie, DVD, Blu-ray, Disney+. Disney Plus is the way I'm going to be watching it, and make sure that you're past menus and things if you're watching it on disc, and let's begin. I've got a timer there on the screen if you need that to help sync, and also, sorry, let me say this real quick before we begin, too. We have had now kind of a tradition with these where I am drinking Malibu rum, and you can get me potentially tipsy like Jack Sparrow if you leave a $5 super chat, and I will probably cut that off at some place. I have to get up early in the morning. I need to not have like a massive hangover, so I will probably cut that off at like I don't know, 5 or 6, depending on how far in between they are. But anyway, maybe I should say $10 super chats, just so I'm not like. Nah, it's always been 5 before. I'm gonna say 5, and I'll spread it out a little bit. But anyway, so leave super chats if you want to do that crazy thing. And I get real silly when I've had too much rum, and also just if you want to make your opinion heard, you can guarantee that with a super chat. Is everybody ready? And with a super chat of any dollar amount, of course. Everybody ready? I hope you're ready.
Utterly deceptive twiddle-daddles. Says I.
I think
I can barely get that out.
I love it. I think that's my favorite Jack Sparrow line
it's really good
in this movie. There's another one I really like too. I'll point it out when we get to it. All right, here goes. Austin's gonna have fun insights and things to tell us about the history of this movie. I am going to point and laugh a lot. That's my plan. All right, here we go. I'm going to clap in glee.
Especially at the opening.
With the exciting... the opening is the depressing part.
Yay!
A child is being hung. Yay! I have a question about the opening. I'm going to probably lead with that. Are we ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Everybody, please press play right now. Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
Does it make sense that the I'm sorry, my thing is running sluggish here. Does it make sense that you're gonna have to help me with character names? The guy that runs the
Cutler Beckett,
the East Indian Trade Company. Yeah, Beckett. Does it make sense that he's waited until now to come down on piracy as hard as he's coming down on it? Like, what is the impetus for this, where we have such a no-tolerance policy all of a sudden?
I think just because he has control of Davy Jones, so we can kind of take over the sea and control all of it, basically.
What was stopping him from doing this before, though? Like, he could have done that without the magical MacGuffin he has now, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure he was probably doing this because also he doesn't come to this area until the second movie, so
okay.
we might just not be seeing this.
It plays like a big status quo change to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this area it definitely is.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's kind of your overreach of the government type thing. But this is a real weird window into Disney, right? Because, this is the only time where we will ever open a Disney movie with a child being hanged.
Well, and you expect somebody to, rush in and save him, right?
I remember as a kid, I thought this... I don't know why, but, when I first watched it, for some reason, I thought this was, a flashback scene. And
oh, wow.
That kid was going to be one of the main characters and it was going to be informing something.
Oh, and maybe it was bookending or calling back to the first movie, which opens with a flashback.
Mm-hmm. I thought maybe this is Jack as a kid or something.
Younger versions of our characters.
And this is the kind of backstory stuff that they were setting up with him and two.
young Jack escapes this and then he just starts chugging a bottle of rum and
exactly.
That's how he became an alcoholic.
He does a little jig. It's a Disney movie, Kev. It's happy. I mean, it is really funny that they have to get the kid a little bucket to stand on. That's really good.
That somehow comedy. Makes it sadder.
It's both sadder and funny. It's good black comedy while also just being really dark.
No, it's true. It's really screwed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is it the darkest thing in the movie? I think it's the thing that bugs me the most.
So, it's hard to say. I think it's between this and the British officer, his name's Mercer, that's stuck on Davy Jones's ship that gets tentacled to death, where it goes down his throat and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think that's one of the most messed up things.
That doesn't bother me as much.
But one of them is just a creepy visual. One of them's just more morally.
It's subject matter. Yeah.
Exactly, it's subject matter.
Children in this kind of peril, really, I have a tough time with. And of course, it being a Disney movie, and well, maybe honestly, really much of anything, you're not actually gonna show it. But like, if this was a rated R film in 2007, I could see like cutting away and like hearing a sound or seeing like the back of the kid and just the rope or something. Like this cuts right to credits. Like it's not gonna show anything.
Well, I think it makes it darker because the kid's holding the coin, and then it like they pull the lever, you hear the drop, and then it just cuts to the coin flipping through like an empty void. So like it also, has that kind of implication.
I like this bit. Like Beckett can't hear them singing. Like, yep, they're singing.
He is right there. They should have started singing "It's a Small World" after all, because it's a Disney picture.
What he should have said is, "What a lovely, lovely voice."
Now hang him. Exactly.
Robert, this movie gets pretty dark. I think it earns it. I mean, it certainly gives it more credibility because of the time period, the subject matter, and such. Even though it's such a cartoon, like I guess I don't mind that juxtaposition. I guess I don't mind how dark it gets and also how silly it is at the same time.
But I remember because I'm like 10, and I'm now at like a point where I can understand ratings. So I remember going into this, and it was like, oh man, like I just saw a woman get shot in the head, and she's got like an actual like bullet hole in her forehead. Like that's messed up. But like you don't see that in like family movies.
I really like that after that opening scene, like right after the title card, the very first image you get looks like the Pirates ride.
Oh sure, yeah. Well, I feel like this one has more references to the ride than the other two do.
Yeah,
Because you also have the one voice from the ride at one point.
Oh yeah, and I didn't even pick up on that. But
yeah, it's when they fall over the waterfall, you hear the voice that's like "Dead man tell no tales," and it's like just audio from the ride.
Wow. It's and I've only been on that ride once, so I wouldn't have noticed that. But I just felt like kind of atmosphere and setting. More of this movie has the ride in it, which is really cool. And the movie itself is much more of a ride than the other two. Even over the first one, I'd say, where it's just like wall to wall. I sound like a generic, like a movie critic when I say this, but like wall to wall, nonstop action. This movie, and I think it's more entertaining than the second movie because of that. Where like, I don't know, the criticism of these movies being too long, I agree with, but I think the second movie has some long stretches where I'd love to see things condensed down, and this movie just has too much going on. Like I don't really know how you'd make it shorter unless you cut it into two movies. It never gets
the
boring.
only way to cut it down is to like cut different plot points. It's like full subplots and stuff.
And I know I say this a lot too, but like it's a whole season of TV in a movie. Like it definitely has that whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, and I find Gore Verbinski's just kind of one of those directors that can be very what's the word, self-indulgent, but I like his work, so I don't care. So I'm like, yeah, be self-indulgent. You know what I mean?
Well, I think your favorite directors are kind of like that, or a lot of them. I think James Gunn is that way.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, you're not gonna care if you're relating to their work enough, and
yeah, and I think because I was thinking about it today, like you have like something like Ant-Man, where there's not really any vision. And I just look at it like, okay, I would take the self-indulgent thing over nothing. Like I can understand the issue of what's too much, but I'd take too much over nothing.
I found myself, this is going to sound funny, I found myself struggling to be critical of this movie while I was watching it this last time. And I don't mean to say that it is criticism proof. There were things that would come to me where I'm like, this is a problem. And then immediately I would go, I don't care. I don't know if it was just the mood I was in. I don't know if it's just, again, comparing these to recent blockbusters. But like this kind of like got through all of my, kind of highfalutin review barriers where I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just having a good time. I don't care.
That's because it's so much fun, Jan.
It
Uh,
is. It really is.
yeah, and there is character stuff that I really like in this movie,
Absolutely.
but that is, a lot of it. Like, this is just a wildly entertaining movie.
But some of the character stuff is a little contrived in order to give us motivations for characters to do things the plot needs them to.
Hmm. Yes, and that is true too.
There is some working your way backwards. It's a little bit kind of video game plot in that way, where it's like these are the set pieces. We decided these are the big things that are going to happen. But of course, it's a story, so our characters need clear motivations for why they're doing those things, and that's where some of the backtracking or kind of retconning stuff comes in. Like, it doesn't feel like the second movie knows that that woman is Calypso. And it's so weird that the movies are made together or back to back, because I can't tell if they knew that with that movie.
That is one thing that I think is definitely known in the second one.
Do you think so?
Yeah, like, we're setting up the Davy Jones romance thing with her, as
Okay.
well as, like, the will be the one that eventually kills him in the second movie. Like, some of that they definitely knew going in. The Pirate Council stuff comes out of nowhere, and we basically retcon the reason why they're trying to free Jack with the Pirate Council thing.
Yeah, and I'm very perplexed by that.
Hmm. It's very weird.
Okay, so again, you know these movies better than I do, and I just watched this once this week casually, not knowing it very well. Can you explain to me the point of the guy with the like fake tattoo? There's like
Yeah,
there's like a reveal where a tattoo washes off, and I wasn't sure what that was about.
he's a British spy. So
Oh.
the captain here is like, oh, this guy's clearly a spy. He's got like a fake tattoo to blend in. So, like, haha, I caught your other man. And they're like, what do you mean? That guy's not ours.
I feel dumb for needing that spelled out to me, but I did not understand that.
No, it's fine. I mean, it's immediately followed by a woman getting shot in the brain. So you kind of like go off and you're like, ooh, fun.
I think the Chinese stuff was a brilliant
The Singapore stuff.
thing to put here. Yeah. I love it because it kind of peels the curtain back more for all the like pirate areas of the world. We've only really been to like one main area, and we're seeing what some pirates of other cultures are like, and also just all the costuming and stuff is super well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the Singapore captain, this guy right here, that was like one of the big things they sold.
I'm sorry,
on.
Singapore. Yeah, thank you.
You're fine. I mean, you watched it one time. You're fine. That was a big thing that they sold this movie on, was all of this. And
well, and
I don't know
that's
if you
smart
had
because
the
it gives it a different affect that we haven't had before. It adds something. It doesn't feel like just more of the same. And I mean, yeah, you're still gonna get your big giant ship battles, but like this time it's way bigger and a third of the movie.
Yeah, I don't know if you had this, and I had it this time because I've seen all these movies since then. But it reminded me of some of the world building stuff in like John Wick, where like
Yes,
it's kind of convoluted, but like in a way that's kind of fun. Like, it's just everyone's an assassin, and like here's all these different like secret societies and stuff.
well, and it kind of has some of the same themes with that, right? Like is there honor among thieves? There's John Wick also has a lot of kind of questioning about like loyalty to friends and versus family versus a like honor code that you sign up for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
exactly.
weirdly have a lot in common, and I feel like the moral of the story here is it's funny because these don't feel cynical, but it's almost this kind of cynical message of when your back is up to the wall, most people are pirates at heart. Seems to be what these movies are kind of saying.
Yeah, basically, freedom over government.
Yeah, exactly. Like however you want to take that.
Yeah, and I mean, there were people in the last two streams, I think, that complained that they thought um, it becomes too like hero-y with the pirates in the sequels. And I don't really have that with 2 and 3 just because it is up against like a very kind of fascist government thing. So it's fine to me,
It also
but
reads really
I can also understand
It
that.
also reads really anti-corporate to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's your kind of like outcast thing, right?
Yeah, but also like the system that they're going up against, in some ways feels even less honorable than theirs because at least the pirates have some sort of a code, and like some of them stick to it and some of them don't. But the but the main East India trade guy seems way worse in comparison because he'll do anything with the justification of it's good business.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it helps too that like all of our characters are at least morally gray. Like even our
Yes.
heroes that will do the right thing in the end are very self-centered and like doing things to screw everyone else over in the
Well, and
moment.
that's what I'm saying is like they're all supposed to have a heart of gold and like really care about each other and like friends and family kind of wins out at the end. But don't forget, like when people say they're too hero-y in the sequels, but like Elizabeth did at the end of the second movie throw Jack to the Kraken.
Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite moments when they get back from Davy Jones' locker and they all immediately try to shoot each other.
Yeah, they're all out for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But so is the guy at the top of the system.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, how's he any better just because, that's the law and the official law of the land. And I think I like that all of our heroes end up being like actual pirates by the end, or at some point or another. Like Elizabeth doesn't end the movie as a pirate, but she goes all the way to Pirate King.
Yeah,
which is a ludicrous idea that the pirates have a king.
Well, I love the idea that they have a king, or like they could have a king, but they can't vote for one because you can vote for yourself.
Everyone
So
would
everyone
vote
votes for
just vote for
themselves.
themselves.
Yeah, that's a really fun idea. And the Pirate Council thing, from what I understand, is like a real thing that happened in real life.
Oh wow.
Obviously, it's not like this, but like there was a thing like this that they were looking at.
What I found less believable about it was not that necessarily that there is a pirate council, but that Jack would be one of the pirate lords. I
have that with Jack and Barbossa because
I don't even understand that.
Was that Jack was like a captain and Barbossa was his first mate, and then Barbossa like kicked Jack off and became a skeleton pirate. So like, at what point did he become one of the captain lords?
Yeah, was he a captain lord? That's a good point. While he was undead, like, is that when he got it?
Yeah, it would either be while he's an undead captain or while he wasn't even a captain.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Like some of that's just very convoluted, and you kind of just have to go, okay, whatever,
But I want to know what the requirements are for being a pirate lord.
Well, it seems to just be if you're near a pirate lord and they die and they give you their pirate lordness.
Is that all it is?
Which I do like that they do make a point that Jack and Barbossa were not original pirate lords.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Because I was going to say Jack doesn't seem like a leader, but I guess that's not really a prerequisite. Because I mean, they're all leaders in the sense that they have a crew, but they're also out for themselves, and you might have mutinies and.
Well, and then you also have Jack's dad, who seems to be kind of like above the council, but like he's just there, but he's not one of them. But he's like the keeper of the book.
Oh, I forgot about that whole thing.
Yeah, with Keith Richards. And that's really cool stunt casting. I really like that. It's not cool in 5, though, when they bring in Jack's uncle and it's Paul McCartney for no reason.
Robert says Elizabeth being the Pirate King is really cool, and I do wish it got some kind of an epilogue. It feels like the movie kind of forgets about that after the climax. That's what they should have done in a sequel. Is it should have been like John Wick, where like she's brought back into the life. There's some stupid thing that like only the Pirate King can do, and they need her, and so they force her to come back and like, oh, now you have to captain the Black Pearls. I don't want the Black. No, you have to though.
People keep saying I'm back. Yeah, that'd be good. No, I like her arc throughout the trilogy
Well,
of
I
being
guess I'm back.
basically not a femme fatale, kidnapped hostage to being the pirate king.
Yeah, it feels like a really easy loophole, but I love it. You gotta love how Jack has that in his back pocket and nobody else thought of it. Where it's like, well, all you have to do is vote for someone that you know will vote the way or will make the decision you want them to make. The problem with that, of course, is you also could be giving somebody way too much power that you can't trust because no honor among thieves. These pirates are not going to be able to trust each other. So this is maybe the absolute only situation where somebody could actually benefit from that loophole. And I guess it's also kind of fun and ironic that he did that with the woman that got him killed and almost thrown to hell for all eternity.
Yeah, no, that's pretty great. No, there's a fun detail too, if you're really paying attention to it, that his dad also is very clearly in on it and kind of sets it up.
See, I wish I'd watched that movie again.
Well, I've never picked up on it until this time. I was like, wait a minute, he's in on this.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie a million times, and I've never
did not
picked
catch
up on that.
So you told me that at the time this was the most expensive movie.
It was,
ever
yeah.
made.
It was a $300 million budget, and I think every cent is on screen. And I looked a bit more into the production of this, and I feel like at this point, this movie probably has to go on my list of movies that I really like that ruined everything.
Yeah.
Because the more I looked into it, this movie causes a lot of the issues that we're into today in terms of rushing VFX artists with Disney and kind of getting that ball rolling more.
And these kinds of movies just having to be too expensive. Like at least this feels like it couldn't have been made without the big budget. But it's just setting too many of those kind of scary precedents.
And because they did 2 and 3 back to back, and they had to they were working on 2 up until it released. Apparently, they only had 5 months to work on the VFX for this movie, which is insane.
Nuts because of how good it looks. I can't get my mind around the fact that this movie is 17 years old.
Yeah,
and
well, I think what probably helps is that Gore Verbinski starts from that place. It's like the John Wick thing, but for CGI instead of stunt work. So I think he probably comes in and he knows kind of what he needs, what he needs to do.
I can actually relate to this villain because he paints miniatures. He plays a miniatures game while he's strategizing his war.
But one of the things, when they're filming the climax, because they build both of those ships next to each other, and they're on these big hydraulics to move them, and
that's crazy.
They had the wall of blue screen around them, of course, and they had giant rain machines, and the rain was so hard it made the blue screen gray, and it completely messed with the blue screen effect too. So it was a pain in the ass.
Wow. Pretty
so,
good blue screen.
That is going wrong, and then it all works out in the end.
I think one of the things that helps it not look fake is just how much rain there is. You can't
it's crazy.
You can't tell what's happening for a good 30% of that. It's just all over the place. And I'm not even complaining. It's thrilling. But it doesn't look like, MCU green screen because none of it's stationary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's constantly moving. And, you have David Jones, obviously. He's one of the first, fully mocapped characters.
Yeah, and looks better than a lot of those now. That's the big thing, and we talked about this with the second movie, I'm sure. But I think even more so with this, I can't believe how believable that face looks relative to some other CG creatures I've seen more recently. And it's almost 20 years old.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting too because most of those now are, the big monsters that come and fight the hero or whatever, right? But like Davy Jones is almost like the Khan thing in Wrath of Khan, where he and Jack are like never on screen together, with the exception of like one scene where they're like actually in a room together. Like this is the first time he does any action, and it's all at the end in this
Yeah.
movie. Like he's always just in talkie scenes too. So I think that's really interesting because that's not how we do that kind of character.
No, well, and that's what's impressive to me is that he's a real character with, a lot of pathos, and he's got all these, like, sad speeches,
Mhm.
and we're on his face constantly, and I'm always believing the performance. And, like, yeah, you can tell it's a special effect, and
Well, yeah.
there's a certain degree of uncanny valley in it, but it looks less fake than a lot of these like, big creature fights that I feel like should be easier to make real than that, or look real than a guy talking that has to give a performance
Mhm. Which I guess now that
with a
we're
tentacle
talking about
phase.
this, I'll throw you my big question that I had like an hour ago. And obviously understand, this is not what the comics is, obviously, but do you think there is a world in which Thanos could have looked more like this with the whole like death thing, with like that romance? Like, do you think you could have played it more like this and have it work in the MCU?
Personally, I do, yeah. But I've always thought that. I've never bought into the idea that if Thanos isn't relatable to the point of having like like a real point about what's wrong with with like society or something.
Hmm.
We have to like really buy into his motivations.
Hmm.
Um,
But
that
I mean, like you don't even necessarily have to have death in it, but like I just mean in the sense that instead of being somebody that pines over Lady Death, like it's almost like a scorned love thing. Like, do you
oh,
think
I
you
see what
could
you're
have
saying.
changed
Yeah,
it to that and had it work?
I mean, I have a hard time not throwing out, my just standard you can make anything work thing because I think what they did, they could have made work for me better than they did. It worked for a lot of
Hmm.
people. I didn't buy into a lot of it.
Well, yeah, I just wondered because I was watching the climax and I was thinking, I'm like, David Jones is not a very sympathetic character, but he has those moments where you're like, but he was a real person, and he's like just that far
The
gone.
character I kept comparing him to was Voldemort,
Okay, interesting.
where I kept going, well, this guy should feel sillier to me than he does like Voldemort, where I just don't even buy that he's at all menacing. But I don't
Hmm.
have that with him.
Hmm. Oh yeah, Bill Nye is awesome.
And he's
Like he
got
really
those
pulls
moments
off
where he's
that.
really funny, but I'm never really like laughing at him like I am Voldemort.
Yeah, like he's never silly. Like
I
there's
guess
a
I'm just saying
part.
he could have gone that way,
Mhm. There's like that part
unintentionally.
later on where it's like the western shot that you used for the thumbnail, where they walk out into the sand and he has to walk in buckets because he can't walk on land. Like that's a funny joke, but it's not taking away from him being a menacing character.
And I really appreciate that they bring back the organ because that's one of the coolest bits in two.
Oh yeah, except now it's sad Oregon.
And speaking of that, Robert brought up, and he's got a super chat. I'll read that in a minute. It says, I'm just going to keep saying, I absolutely love the music in this movie. These
Some of
movies
Zimmer's best work.
altogether have amazing scores, but like this one was really getting to me.
Hmm.
Really moving, and just exciting, and like a lot of the same melodies and beats, of course, from the other movies, but incredibly well utilized where they fall.
Hmm.
Uh,
When it's a lot more frenetic, I guess, with how it's edited to the music.
like I said, this movie's never boring.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's this $5 super chat, and then
Mhm.
I'm gonna drink some rum. We're not out of rum yet. He says my biggest actual criticism of this movie is the pieces of end up feeling superfluous since they just use 9 pieces of whatever to free Calypso. Yeah, they play that as a joke, and I think it is kind of funny, where they're like, it seemed like this dramatic MacGuffin that was going to be kind of hard to get their hands on, and then there's a line about that where it's like, well, yeah, if we just said 9 pieces of whatever is in your pockets.
So this is gonna sound super dorky, and I'm gonna look like a giant loser. But when I was a kid after this movie, I convinced my friend group to have a pieces of 8 thing where we all had like in our friend group like a thing that we picked out, and it was just random things we had on us.
Oh my god, did you really?
And I made mine a string of beads because I had to be the Jack Sparrow, of course.
I don't think you should have admitted to any of this.
I know. Can we delete? Can we end the stream and start over? I'm feeling hot and bothered.
It reminds me of one of my favorite games to play in high school and college, where I would invite a bunch of friends over. I've talked about this before, and we would play poker for random objects.
Oh, that's fun.
So you'd play whatever it was, 5-card draw or whatever. You'd play poker, but when you kind of anteed up at the beginning, you had to not only put your chips in, but everybody put in one item, and then whoever won the pot also got the items.
Mm-hmm.
One guy brought an IOU for a lawnmower.
That's great.
His dad was trying to get rid of a lawnmower.
But yeah, the whole thing is that they want to get all the pieces so they can free Calypso. So I'm not entirely sure what your issue is with it being superfluous. Because like that is a big important thing that they free her, and then that's part of why they win.
He says it is a funny joke, but it would have been an easy rewrite to have Jack just grab the pieces of 8 from Beckett later.
Yeah.
Like, does it just feel too silly of a plot point? Or like, it's just too easy that you can use whatever you have? Like, I feel like we have enough MacGuffins in these movies is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've already got the heart, and you've got the... the compass, and...
I think part of it, too, is that the pieces don't matter. It's just freeing her, so it doesn't really matter what they use, really. Like, from the plot perspective, I mean. Like, I don't think we really needed to spend more time getting it together.
I just also like the inherent, like, sounding contradiction of 9 pieces of 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. And that's exactly what I called it in my friend group, even though there wasn't 9 of them. Or 8.
Exactly. How do you feel overall about what's done with Barbossa, and also just how he's brought back? Somebody asked about that earlier.
So bringing him back is like probably too easy. It's hard for me to, I think, look at it that way, just because I grew up on it. Like, I think it's the way a lot of people do with like Boba Fett, where they grew up with, oh well, he climbed out of the Sarlacc pit, so that's how it is. But a lot of it for me is just I really like what they do with him here, and him and Jack's rivalry is one of my favorite things in this movie. And I just love Jeffrey Rush. Like, he's the unsung hero of these movies in a lot of ways. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's too easy that she's able to bring him back, and there's not any discussion about how exactly she did it, or am I not remembering that? I kind of wish that there was just an explanation. Like, what
this is the voice that's from the ride.
Oh, that's great. But whatever it is, okay, no. If you haven't been watching Ninja Turtles, the Ninja Turtles shows we've been doing, you're not gonna get this joke. But I was just gonna say it's black, so they don't have to animate.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was gonna say something else, but let me make this point real quick. I really like, and maybe this was one of the things that fans didn't care for with this movie. I like the risk they take with leaving Johnny Depp off the screen for a whole half hour.
Yeah, I do too.
And I like that the whole movie isn't him again.
When people complained about all of this stuff, like I think people were thinking he was kind of flanderized by this point, which I don't have, but I do after this movie.
Yeah. What does that mean, flanderized?
Like we boil him down to like he's just quirky, and it's just scenes of him being quirky instead of being a character. But
Where
I don't think
it's
we're
too
there
informed
yet.
by his popularity.
Exactly.
Where they latch on to the things that people love about him, and then they exaggerate that, and so he becomes almost a caricature of himself, right?
Mm-hmm. Which is named after Flanders because he starts as a character and then becomes just the like god character on The Simpsons.
I took the opportunity to spell that out for people that had not heard that term before, because you say that a lot, and I'm sure there's people that have no idea what that means.
That's fair. All I know is I got to see Jack want to make it with a goat, so I'm happy.
Yeah, all of this is weird and bizarre, and again reminds me very much of the Matrix sequels, because not only are we on White, but there's also a whole bunch of him, just like the multiple Agent Smiths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like I should be annoyed at this. Like I should have what other people had with this, but I don't know. Depp just kills it. Like I think he's really good in all this.
Well, I have to be honest with you. I don't fully even understand the choice here with all these different.
I don't either. Like I don't know why this is the choice that they made.
Jack Sparrow's, and I really don't get why it comes back later. Maybe you can explain that to me. But real quick, let me make the point that regardless of that, it doesn't go on as long as I remembered it.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mind it so much this time around, just because it's not taking away from the other character arcs and screen time that the rest of our cast is getting. Like, this is much more ensemble at this point, and I think it's really earned that.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and I think for me too with Jack, like his story is the thing that I latch on to the most, and that I really like his conflict between whether or not he should take over for Davy Jones and whether he wants immortality, or if like the cost of it is too much.
Yeah,
I latch on to all that stuff, so like I don't really have a lot of issues with that.
Yeah, and he's characterized consistently with all of that.
Mm.
Where especially when you get to the end of the movie and he's gone through all of this and he should have been in the locker for all eternity and all of that, and then he's literally going after the Fountain of Youth. Like he's learned nothing by the end.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he has, he's ignoring it, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's back to his old adventurous ways. And it's the ultimate payoff of both of these movies, in that in 2, he's kind of lost himself and doesn't know what he wants anymore. And the only thing he really knows is that he wants to run away from dying. And then by the end of this movie, he's focused. He knows what he wants.
And it's still running away from dying.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then the question is, if he found the Fountain of Youth and the way to get it was a deal with the devil, would he do that again? Because that's the whole mistake that he's constantly dealing with and running away from. Is he made a deal with the devil for his ship? Because you're right. I guess he's constantly fighting against, do I want to live forever or do I want to be a pirate? Because those two things don't really go together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because obviously the sequel then picks up on that, and I wish it was more about it, and it kind of isn't.
I was going to ask you if they dealt with that.
Yeah, 4 is all about the Fountain of Youth, and it's very convoluted.
Of course it is. I don't love that. Like, I was okay with it as an ending for this movie, but I had forgotten about it, and immediately when I saw that, I was like, ooh, that's a misstep if you keep going with it in a sequel, because...
Well, I feel like it's you're riding into the sunset. It's not setting up the next adventure.
No, it really shouldn't be. And I mean, if you make another movie after that, you probably have to address what happened with that. Because yes, but I would have just, kind of kind of written away from it and been like, well, he couldn't find it, or he went to another adventure that we didn't see and it didn't work out for
plays
him.
it both ways, which is why it's even more awkward.
Oh,
Because
really?
it opens and he's like, well, I tried to find it, but it didn't go well. And then he runs into the villains and they want the Fountain of Youth. And then they go on the adventure to find the
Oh,
Fountain
don't
of
do
Youth.
that.
Like, it plays it both ways.
Okay. But no, my issue with it is it's not so much like the Star Trek thing where going to find God or going to find the Fountain of Youth is a dumb idea because you know what's going to happen at the end, right? Like, at least with these, it's a mythological thing in the first place, and there is immortality and characters are living forever and paying for it, and you have, like, you know, real hell and stuff, and like, death is not forever in these kinds of movies, so you could have a literal Fountain of Youth. But the problem is, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, all of the other big mythological, like, ideas and artifacts and things, they might be loosely based on things, but they're original to these movies.
Which is, I think, part of why 4 is weird, because 4 is also an adaptation of a novel. So, like, it feels like we adapted a book and then just slapped Jack as the main character.
Ooh, I don't like that at all. Really?
Which is not what these first 3 are. Like, it's really weird.
The Fountain of Youth, and I'm not saying I would have ever wanted this, but that's something to have Indiana Jones go find.
Yeah, it's like doing the Holy Grail.
That's not something to have Jack Sparrow go find.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish they hadn't done that. It should have been something made up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, this is going on a little bit longer than I remembered from my watch the other day.
Cap, because Jack found a rock, but it wasn't a rock. It was a rock lobster.
That lobster was inside of you all along.
Exactly. Yeah, I think people complain that some of the character introductions are too long. I don't know. I think it's fine. Like, you could probably cut this down, but it doesn't bother me.
Well, I felt like the point was supposed to be he's kind of lost his mind again.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then sometimes he seems pretty lucid, and then occasionally he starts seeing a bunch of himself again. And when we come back and do that again, it's been too long since the last time we saw that, so I don't know why it's happening now. That's my issue with the multiple Jacks thing, is I can't tell if it was always in his head or if that's part of what the hell of Davy Jones' locker was. Like, it's hell for Jack to have to live with himself, but then he doesn't seem to really mind all the Jacks. Like, I don't really understand what the point of that is.
Yeah, I think it is supposed to be like he went mad, but then also he has to become the character that we know, so he can't be fully mad. But then it does keep coming back, and it becomes like a devil on your shoulder, or angel and devil thing.
Then I think they needed to be more consistent with it and keep it throughout, but then that also could have been super irritating.
Yeah, because it also starts as just, it's just kind of wackiness, and then it becomes personifying his thoughts, where, like, it's that inner debate being played out between them. So, like, it also changes later on in the movie what it represents. So it is definitely muddled. And
it's real muddled, yeah. And in that
I've
way,
always been able to say about this movie is that this movie is very muddled. I love it, but
well, in that way, I can see people.
It's not perfect.
Well, and the thing is, I don't mind a lot of the muddling nature of it, because, like you said, it's just super fun, and I'm glad that we don't have to live with that stuff too much. But just for the sake of, like, the narrative and characterization with Jack Sparrow, like, I guess I can kind of see why people complain that it was just an excuse to, see him act with himself.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I understood it.
Yeah, I feel that, and I think it would have been worse for me if it, like, really took over the movie and it was like, every scene that he's in.
You know what I might have done with this?
What's that?
I might have had him, in like the hell, look at it however you want to, like hallucinating or like physical manifestations are there, but instead of a bunch of different versions of him, it's all of his friends or all of these characters, and then when
Sure.
when they show up, just like here, he thinks they're hallucination, but instead of being a bunch of him, it's all these people.
Hmm. No, that would have worked. That actually probably would have been better. But
See there, I fixed it.
there you go. You got it.
I contributed something to this commentary.
Did you take your shot yet?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
No, I know you can't see me right now. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just had that thought. I was like, wait a minute. I don't know if you said that you took it.
I did three or four more, and I might see a bunch of Captain Logans and then like a rock crab.
And then you'll stab one of the Captain Logans and be like, it's your fault that we're in this mess right now.
Hey, talk to me about the Calypso thing. What do you think of where we go with her and her whole character arc?
Yeah, I think it's really cool because there's like when they introduce her in the last movie, it's like a kind of spiritual witch thing, and then obviously in this one, you realize that it's because she's the god of the sea, and I like how that pays off. And I mean, they do set that up in two, where they're talking about how Davy Jones loved the god of the sea, and they're also setting up that she was the one that he was in love with.
Cool. I haven't watched that retroactively, remembering what happens in Freeze. So,
well, yeah,
that's
like
good.
It's subtle. Like you see the heart necklace thing on her table, and then he has one when he's playing the organ, and little moments like that. And she gets like really offended when they can't guess, his backstory about love.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I like that she gets a bigger role and that she gets to actually come on the adventure this time.
She gets a literally bigger role.
Yeah, well, that scared the crap out of me in the theater.
It's pretty
when she turns into
awesome.
a giant, and she's got like the like really bassy voice.
Yeah, it's actually kind of legit scary. And then she turns into the Oogie Boogie Man.
Well, she turns into rock lobsters. It's like
Yeah, if it was like the Oogie Boogie Man, but made up of lobsters instead of maggots.
Exactly.
My bugs.
My rock lobsters.
So this goes without saying, but this movie has a massive cast.
Yes. That it does. And 4 completely throws all of them away, and then 5 brings them back. It's really weird because 4 implies that everyone died, and then they just come back in 5.
So I'm going to talk about this prematurely, but do you have the thing I do where, as goofy and over the top and bombastic as this movie does, the most cartoonish thing for me in the whole thing is that Jack Sparrow somehow finds I'm sorry, I'm dumb. It's not a telescope. What do you call those?
Oh, now you blanked it out of my mind. What is that called?
But he shows back up, and he's got like
he's
got one that's like 5 times bigger than Barbossa's, because they're literally measuring them. And I was like, where did he get that?
Oh, it's so funny.
He's a cartoon character.
I remember that being like the biggest laugh from the crowd in the theater when he shows up and he's got the giant one.
It's ridiculous, dude.
Oh, that first one though that we just saw where Barbossa's is bigger is also really funny now, because I was watching the bloopers yesterday and he pulls it out and it breaks off and smacks him in the eye. So it's like I got a third joke out of it. It's great.
Robert says spyglass. I guess that's a word for it.
Mm-hmm. That is one of them.
Boy, I feel really dumb. DJ is here. He says, holy crap, how does Austin know this franchise so well?
Because I've seen them 8 billion times.
This seems like for you, like Star Wars for a lot of people, or like Matrix for me. Like,
yeah, and it's one of those things.
I say
where,
Matrix.
Like,
I mean,
I've seen 5 once.
Those sequels aren't great, but I have seen them a lot.
and I feel like I probably know 5 close to scene for scene, just because I'm like so familiar with the franchise that it stuck with me more, even though I've only seen it once. Where it's like, oh, these are the things they did with the characters I like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, you've got like an encyclopedic knowledge of those.
Well, and like I had books about this stuff, like not like because they did do like fictional like Jack Sparrow novels and stuff, but I had like they did like a book about all the pirate captains and like all the about like their backstories and stuff. There was like an encyclopedia thing. Like I had that as a kid, and a lot of things like that. Like I did a lot of reading about just these movies, and I watched the behind the scenes a lot. It was a very big thing. It was a very big nerdy thing for me.
I wonder how much of a surprise it is for the audience, you know, that's still with this and hasn't already checked out, because I guess that was a problem for a lot of people. But I wonder how many people for whom it was a big reveal that Davy Jones wasn't always a tentacle face man.
Yeah, I remember that being like a big shock. Like, oh,
That plays like a
this is
big
what he looked like.
surprise.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that effect where she like touches him and it like the tentacles like shrink back into a beard.
And you get to see the actor without the CG face.
Yeah, you get this one scene.
It's great.
Mhm.
And it's genuinely kind of a sad moment.
Yeah, it is. I like that. It's like they almost get back together, in that scene, and then she realizes that it's not real.
I think it's easy to
They don't
miss
really
some of
work
the
out.
human moments in this movie because it's so big and bombastic, and it feels like plot twist after plot twist.
Well,
Because like,
this is a big one with
they are there,
Elizabeth's dad.
yeah, and it's really effective. And his
Mhm.
performance is fantastic in the scene.
Yeah, I love Jonathan Pryce. I kind of wish he got more to do in the sequels to these, but I do really like him as an actor.
It is very serviceable to the plot though, because if he's got too much of a presence, then the
Yeah,
the main
it's
villain,
just one of those things where
it's
I'm like,
harder
oh, I
for him
like
to take
that
over.
actor. Like, I want to see him in more things, but you're right. No, like he is used perfectly.
Robert says, a part of me will always miss the clean, happy ending of the first movie. In this one, characters die, everyone is sad. Most of the characters don't get what they want, but it mostly does earn it. And again,
Yeah,
I don't know if
I
I'm
can
just not
understand
invested
that.
enough in these to be super critical of them at this point.
So my thing has just always been I love big adventure movies where there's no going back afterwards. Where like you're too affected, you can't just go home and live your life after. So I really like how these end in that it's not like it is a happy ending, but also kind of tragic at the same time. Like it plays both ways.
Well, and I feel like it's pretty well earned with Will, where like he gets to sort of a point of no return place a lot earlier than this, where I think with the first movie you wouldn't have expected him to just decide he's going to be a pirate. It's like if that's the direction he's going to go, and he sticks to it, like he's gonna get to sort of a Jack Sparrow place, which is what happens.
Well, I think we talked in the last one about how that's your Luke Skywalker thing, right? Where it's I want to save my dad,
Yeah,
but instead of his dad sacrificing himself to save the son, we flip it, where it's like he sacrifices his regular life in order to save his dad.
yeah, and like he's not, because I say he goes to a Jack Sparrow place just in that he makes some of the same decisions Jack does, but for more noble reasons.
Hmm.
So he gets put in the same place where he has to give up his freedom and be, stuck captaining this scary ghost ship, and he can only see his wife every 10 years. But he's not going to do the Jack Sparrow thing where he's finding some way to run away from that. He just embraces it and owns it for the sake of what he thinks is the greater good. So, like, in that way, he is still, playing the hero, I guess.
Hmm.
But there also seems to be this kind of, I mean, tell me if I'm reading it wrong, because I just don't know these as well as you do. But like,
Yeah.
my interpretation with him is also there's kind of this like romanticization of that was not a word, but I'll move on. He kind of romanticizes the pirate life, and even after what happens with his father and that being his main motivation, uh, for for embracing that life. I don't think he ever completely loses that either.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Oof.
So yeah, he's still talking to himself. He's
Yeah, now
literally
now
got
he's got
the
angel and devil on his
angel devil on
shoulder.
a shoulder thing. Yeah.
And it blew my mind as a kid when I learned that they built like the giant dreadlocks for him to hang in.
Did they actually?
Yeah. I think just the ones that like the specific ones are holding, like not the rest.
That's pretty crazy, though. We
Hmm.
would never do that now.
No, you would just be holding a big blue screen. There's a whole thing in this cap when him
And
and
honestly, it might
Davy
look
Jones
about
are
the
fighting on
same.
the mast.
I'm sorry, what?
You know the scene where Jack and Davy Jones are fighting on the top of the ship on the mast? They built like that whole mast and then they couldn't fit it, like they couldn't work their shots into the movie, so they had to like like digitally alter the background, but like they still built it to film on. Like it's crazy.
That's nuts.
This is back when we still built things.
Yeah, it's sad. Well, and that was one of the only accolades I could give the second Aquaman movie is that at least they built some sads.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
There's still some really inconsistent uh, effects in
Oh,
that
sure.
movie, and there's some
Well, it
stuff that
helps
looks
that it's
terrible.
Aquaman, so like there's got to be a lot of underwater stuff.
No, Austin, it was absolutely bizarre. He finally gets a seahorse.
Oh,
And
I saw this in your review, and it looked really bad at the
it
beginning, but
it
then
looks
good
terrible,
at the end, right?
and then you get to the end and it looks great. I don't understand,
That's
or
bizarre.
at least that was my experience with it. Robert says, I think Will and Elizabeth are underrated characters. A lot of people who don't like these sequels think Will and Elizabeth were boring and shouldn't have been brought back. I am perplexed and bewildered by that. For my money, this is kind of Elizabeth's movie, and she's the best character, and I completely fall in love with her. And I like her in the other movies, but like I I I love her
When I
on
remember
the
with the
on the
first
on the
one, you
level
were
of
like, I
like
wasn't
a
sure about her until the scene where they're stuck on the island. Like you had to be like won over on her, and now she's your favorite character by the end. I think that's really great.
yeah, and see, I don't even remember what I was saying about her in the first movie, but like, she seems like a classic action hero by the end of this. And you and I
Mhm.
talked about this off camera, but like, it should be, if not the gold standard, a good example to look at for like strong female, action heroes that don't have to lose their femininity. Like, she's just fantastic.
Yeah. Well, her like sexuality is like very present through all three movies, and then that's a big. We'll get there with the ending because there's like a whole thing with that I think is crazy.
Yeah, and she's
This
not.
movie ends on.
Yeah, and there's a distinction between. And I love the way you put that. She doesn't lose her sexuality, but she's not objectified either.
No, and there's places where she are like where she. Oh my God, my English broke.
There's places where
Uh,
she are.
there's places where she are. No, there's there's places where she is, but like a lot of it's just like it understands the world they're in. Like when they go to Singapore and they force her to strip, it's like, yeah, it's understanding that these aren't good people.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I don't think the movie's objectifying her. I think those characters are.
Hmm.
There's kind of a difference. And
Yeah.
sure, you could make the argument that we also throw stuff like that in for the men in the audience that are then like running away with their imaginations or whatever. I'm not going to try to guess at the motivations of the filmmakers with that kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And we can also argue about how much of that is even wrong or whatever. But this scene is awesome.
Well, these movies are not even secretly just very horny.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I hesitated because we were talking over one of the most imaginative bits in the film.
Yeah, and like this whole thing's really fun and it's very just adventure movie. Like you could see this in like an old Harryhausen movie.
Yes, I was
This
thinking
kind
that
of
all the way
idea.
through this, and I mean the last movie too with the Kraken is just right out of Harryhausen movies.
Yeah, and that's
It's
one of my big complaints with this movie is how we write the Kraken off, like between movies is lame. But
Did we need to see it a second time though? What more would you do with it?
That's my thing though. Is it's like when I think about it, I'm like, what else could you do with it? Like it was kind of done. I think I would just adjust it. Is maybe what I would do. Like maybe say it died from the injuries in the battle that they had. Maybe I don't know. It just feels awkward because I remember being so excited to see how they would beat it going into this one, and then there's like one line where they're like, "Oh, I made you kill it." But my favorite scene in this movie is probably the scene where they go to see the Kraken, and it has that Jack has that line about the world getting smaller.
Yeah. I like this scene because it feels like we're taking everything back to brass tacks and reminding us that it's not a Justice League movie.
Yes.
Like,
I also like that Jack was fully prepared to kill everyone. And one of the funny,
he just used your kind of grammar. He said, "I is arguing the point."
And one of the funniest subtle moments in this is when Barbossa pulls a gun on Jack, and then everybody pulls guns on Barbossa, and then Jack pulls a gun on Will for no reason.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Was it just for comedic effect? Like,
I think so. Is there a real reason for him to do that?
I had the split second where I was like, when I watched this earlier this week, where I was like, wait, how did they all accidentally get water guns?
What, a Disney step in?
And then
after they hanged a child,
and then when you get the 45-minute action scene with the boats firing at the end, and you have that part where it's raining, and Barbossa or whoever it is screams about making sure the powder doesn't get wet. I'm like, I don't know how you keep it dry.
No, everything's wet. There's no way it's not.
There's no way it's not. He's like, keep that powder dry. I'm like, how?
But I mean, at the very least, at least the enemy's powder is also wet.
Where did he get the spyglass? Where did he get the giant? Did he build it? Was it just
built it with his tools?
Was it in the ship somewhere?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it degenerated into a Warner Brothers cartoon.
No, that's exactly what it is, and I love it.
It's hilarious.
I love that part where it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing?
Robert says Keira Knightley was was one of his first ever movie crushes, and he says, but Elizabeth is genuinely a good character. Yeah, I mean, you can have both. Mm-hmm. There is nothing wrong with that. No, I feel like if I'd been younger, when this came out, I would have had that too. Like if I see this as a teenager, I would just absolutely fall in love with that character. Mm-hmm. Like on both levels, you know what I mean? Like as a like heterosexual guy, like oh god, she's gorgeous. I love this character, but also she's a really cool character.
Yeah, it plays it both ways.
I just feel like she is everything Rey in Star Wars should have been.
Yeah, I mean, I wish, Star Wars maybe took some cues from this when it came back, but I got the reverse. The fifth movie of this is just The Force Awakens.
Of course it is.
Parts Solo, even though Solo hadn't come out yet.
He just says that that's a sad commentary in and of itself, and if we do a commentary on that movie, it probably will be. It probably will be a sad commentary.
Exactly.
In and of itself. Are we going to bother with 4 and 5?
I don't know. I don't know how much interest there'll be in 4 and 5. 4 over 5, I would think, because 4, I would say, is more divisive than hated.
And then 5 is just dismissed, probably?
Yeah. Which is weird, because it's got that Terminator sequel thing where I remember when it came out and every article was like, it's the best one since the first one. And, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, and we stopped hearing that with Dark Fate about 6 seconds after people were saying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it becomes like marketing speech at a certain point.
Well, that's why the whole Twitter review thing, the night of a premiere, that's such a waste of everybody's time.
Hmm.
And I think people have pretty much stopped taking stock in any of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Though
Because
it is really
there was a
funny
time
that
where it was like,
Madam
oh my god,
Web's.
people are loving this. It's like, yeah, who cares? They're on a high because they got invited to a Hollywood premiere. I would probably love anything I got to see at my first Hollywood premiere.
Though it is really funny that the Twitter embargo lift for Madam Web is at like 1 in the morning, the night that it comes out.
Really?
Yeah, it like comes out on the 14th and it's like 1 a.m. on the 13th.
I also think the thing they do with Elizabeth getting married at the end of this is wonderfully romantic. We'll talk about the actual like wedding fight because it's preposterous, but I love it. But you have the whole thing with the first movie where she's I like using it to disguise herself and calling herself Elizabeth Turner, and then she finally marries her and marries him and is Elizabeth Turner. Like
Hmm.
it's an obvious like kind of turnabout, but I'm glad we got there.
Yeah. Well, that's a question I had for you, Cap, is how do you feel about their kind of romance drama in this? Because I know you're very against like that kind of thing.
What do you mean?
Well,
What
just
part of it
because,
am I against? Like, I don't typically love triangles, but we're not. It's not really a triangle.
well, it's just that like they're very like lovey, and then in this one there's like a lot of that kind of conflict where they're just kind of fighting, and you're waiting for them to get back together. But I think it works in this one because they're both like one of them is dealing with the guilt of over killing Jack, and the other one's too focused on his dad. So like I think it works in that it's like dividing them a little bit.
Honestly, I didn't develop much of an opinion about it because it seemed real in the background to me.
Okay, fair enough. I
Like,
wasn't sure if that would be one of those things in this movie that you were like, "Oh my God,
it
okay." Like,
probably was in the theater. Watching it this week, my focus was on so many other things that at the point where they did the wedding fight, I was like, I kind of felt like I hadn't really dealt with them as a couple that much through this.
mhm.
And
No,
I
I mean,
also I kind of wanted to rewatch it because I wasn't sure how much of, and you've kind of just answered the question for me, how much of the animosity that I did see between them was like staged or something.
mhm.
Because I kept thinking some of it was an act, but
Yeah.
you're making me think it must not have been.
Yeah, no, I think it's just that they're both kind of dealing with their own thing and they're not communicating about it.
Okay, well then yes, you're right. I probably should be irritated about that, but I wasn't thinking about it at the time. No,
Oh, fair enough.
I hate lack of communication in forced relationship drama, of course.
Mhm.
I
Oh, so this is one of the big deleted scenes. Is this scene was extended where you get their backstory and you find out that Jack was like originally a sailor for Beckett, and Beckett had him smuggling children, and Jack was like, "I'm not gonna do that," and that's why he became a pirate. Which I don't really need.
I don't
Like,
love that. You,
I don't love that either. I don't like that it makes him too like lawful good when he should be more chaotic good. Like it makes
yeah,
him too heroic, I think, and it takes away from his arc a little bit.
I wasn't thinking about that. It kind of creates a retroactive prequelitis thing like Spider-Man 3, where it's like we've
Hmm.
kind of gone too far in adding to his backstory. Not that it's super convoluted, but just that. Yeah, and Robert mentioned this too. Like I would have liked to have kept that more,
No, I like how it
more
plays where
ambiguous.
they clearly have a history, but it's ambiguous.
Yeah, just make them rivals as pirate and.
Hmm. Yeah, like he's a pirate, and he's a guy that hunts pirates. They
Yeah,
both come in conflict before.
yeah. I guess just like government law guy.
Mhm.
Um, It's kind of like the Solo problem, except that doesn't happen until a prequel.
Hmm. Well, and then we'll go full solo when we give Jack the origin for his name in 5.
Oh no. Is he gonna have like a bird on his shoulder?
No, it's he's like, I think it's like him on top of the ship, like steering it, and the bad guy's like, there he was, high up there, like a little sparrow, and from that day on, he was Jack the Sparrow. It's like, oh,
Wow.
that sucks.
That makes the thing at the beginning of the third Indiana Jones movie where he gets his hat and whip in the same scene look inspired.
Well, and that movie also has the origin for Indy's name, but it works somehow.
Angel Castaneda says, "I love the fan." Yeah, that's pretty great.
That part is all over the bloopers because he can't get those lines right while fanning himself. Where there's like a 2-minute long stretch of him doing it over and over again.
Okay, talk about the deleted scene Robert's discussing. He says he felt like he always felt like there was something missing with Beckett's arc, and there's a deleted scene that filled it in.
He's talking about that one with the one I was talking about with Jack's backstory. That's
Okay.
like extended to this.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying that there was something that some of that stuff was discussed in the movie, and somehow I missed it when I was watching it casually this week. So that's not. So none of that's
deleted.
in the movie. Okay, that's good. I'm glad we didn't get. Okay, so that's not canonical. That's not. It doesn't count now, right?
Yeah, it's just a deleted extended.
It doesn't get brought up in 4 or 5.
No. When 5 completely retcons it, 'cause you have him as like a kid, as pirate.
But I could see Robert's argument that it would be nice to get a little bit of a better sense of Beckett's motivation beyond just greed. But then I think I'm okay with it being mostly greed because like I said, I feel like what the thing is really getting at is this guy is not that far removed from the same motivations that these pirates have. He's not any better than they are.
Well, yeah, I like that Beckett's whole thing is basically he just wants to be in control and put the world in a box, and it will literally blow up in his face. Yeah. I think all of that works for him. He's basically the Lex Luthor villain in this movie. Like, I don't know, I don't really need more with him.
Well, that's true. That I guess that is a good distinction between like what he wants and what the pirates want. But like he's not any better than they are, like morally, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. No, because I guess like he's in a sense like kind of a fascist.
Yeah.
And not even really kind of.
And no, he's just a fascist, and so there's arguably something of nobility, or if not like altruism, just like something most of us can appreciate in the pirates, and just like wanting to be master of your own destiny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I also think it's possible that Jack just is the opposite of me and really hates painted miniatures.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Well, in a deleted scene, it was a Power Rangers miniature that he put in the canon.
Wow, that game didn't even exist yet.
Yeah, that's why they had to CGI a little Beckett instead, because
oh, crazy. No, that was a decade away. I don't even understand that.
He was like, "I'm blowing up your Zed, mate."
Robert says that doesn't the 5th movie also retcon where Jack got the compass?
Oh, the compass thing is insane in the 5th movie. Yes, it does. The whole plot of that movie starts where the villain is coming after him because he gave his compass away, which reawakens the spirit. But this entire movie is him giving his compass away, and so was the last one. This doesn't make any sense.
I didn't care about it until then.
Mm-hmm. No, it's with 5. They're making a really big deal that he's very washed up. So like the breaking point for him is that he sells his compass for like a shot of booze or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, and 4 and 5 Cap do the Brainiac thing where Blackbeard puts the Black Pearl in a bottle, so he's got like his ship in a bottle. Like it does like
Really?
the city of
It's the
Candor
bottle
thing.
city of Candor?
Yeah, it does that with his ship in 4 and
That's
5.
fantastic. I have kind of an inherent issue with just making more Jack Sparrow stories after this movie in general. Like, you'd have to do a lot to win me over on that, because it feels like at the end of this, I don't know what else you'd have to say about that character, but more than that, it's so big, where else is there to go from there? Like, the only thing I could see after this is find other interesting characters in this world to tell stories about that could be smaller, and they're about different people and about different ideas, and so I don't mind that it's not the big epic that these turned into. But as soon as you go back to Jack, it's like there's nowhere else to go, like both character-wise and mythology-wise.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and 4 and 5 both just do, oh, somebody from his past showed up, and now there's going to be an adventure with them, or they're the villain. Like that's all we got.
Do they get deep into the supernatural stuff again?
Yes, because you have like ghosts in 5 that are the villains, and then Blackbeard's the villain of 4, and he is zombies, but not like
Okay.
Romero zombies, like the old school like voodoo zombies.
Well, that's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, and like he's got a whole thing where like his sword controls like the ropes on his ship, and they do voodoo dolls in that one.
Robert says the action is lame in that movie.
Yes. Jack's not even really fighting in the climax of 4 or 5, now that I think about it. He's just there. It's very lame, especially because I talked about it in the first 2 commentaries, but there's a very real escalation in terms of the action for the end of each of these 3.
This guy basically just said, I'm going to force myself on you, and if you fight back, that's also fun.
Well, and then he got penetrated by wood, so take that for what it's worth.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point, yeah. He got what was coming to him. You know what? You can say this is a live-action cartoon all you want to, but there are actions and consequences, for sure.
And it's very sexual.
It's very sexual.
Yeah. That's why he's not that mad about it. And this was a big shock for me in the theater because they sold this movie on him so much, and they were like, this guy, he's like the big important character of this movie.
Oh my God, and they did that 2 years after Batman Begins?
Yeah.
Well, that's just racist.
It is racist. They whitewashed him with a white woman.
Well, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's like it's like they did the same thing with Batman Begins with Ra's al Ghul.
I know, and both of them to white people, but this time a woman, so it's worse.
Wow. Matthew Bates, I also think there's some commentary that's basically saying colonialism and the British Empire are the ultimate and worst types of pirates. That's what I was getting at.
Mm-hmm.
That's the commentary I'm seeing.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely there too. Well, that's the thing I have with, I think I talked about it when we did 2, is there's people that complain that the cannibal thing in 2 is racist. But I'm like, the main villain of this series are white colonizers.
Yeah.
Like, really? Stand for the fact that we did that back then.
But yeah, the pirates in these movies, and I think this is a lot of the reason people latched on to Jack Sparrow so hard, is it's absolutely that, like, mid-90s level, like counterculture, anti-establishment thing.
We all love the, like, Han Solo-ish rogue, too. It's just, he doesn't have the direct Han Solo, like, now I'm the general of the rebels, you know?
And they also do it exactly like goths in the 90s or, like, punk rockers, where they're all about individuality and being themselves and going their own way, but they all look and sound exactly the same.
Yeah. They're all individuals, Cap.
And if we're all individuals, none of us are.
Exactly. And if we're all individuals, then we're all fish people.
But yeah, somebody that was very profound. I want to put that on a bumper sticker.
If I were an individual, I would be one of these guys that's stuck into the wall, and I can pull my brain out.
God, don't you hate it when that happens?
No, I wish it would happen more. Hanging out with dementia.
Okay, so would you remind me what exactly, because I remember part of it, but would you remind me what exactly got Will's father in this situation?
Yeah, so he was part of Jack's crew back in the day, and then Barbossa forced Jack out and dumped him on the island. So they tied a cannon to his legs and threw him in the ocean. So he like also curses their gold. So it's like he creates the cursed gold from the first movie, and then them drowning him puts him in Davy Jones's crew.
Okay. Is he just talked about in the first movie, or does he actually show up in that?
He's just talked about.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. When this is your favorite character, Kat, this is Naked Scientist Man from Thor.
Yeah, I know. Naked Scientist Man.
Now he's Naked Fish Man, but with clothes.
Yeah, I mean, and he's fine in the Thor movies, but like, kind of anybody could have played that. He definitely gets to create a character here.
Yeah, when he's one of those character actors too that does a lot of like really good indie work, and then they cast him in a Marvel movie and they gave him nothing. He's one of those guys.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, in Ant-Man 2, there's what's his name, like Sonny Birch, I think, the criminal guy that's chasing them through the whole movie.
Well, he was the other character in Avengers that was mind controlled like Hawkeye the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Actually, I think even longer than Hawkeye.
Yeah, he was. And then that made him Naked Scientist Man, that trauma.
Right. They should have made a whole movie about that.
Well, that was his origin story, yeah. And then by Thor 4, he's just sad Jane has cancer, man.
See, it's sad enough to be a fish man stuck in a wall, but to also have dementia on top of it.
Well, at least he doesn't remember that he has dementia, I guess.
I think that's a lot of people with dementia.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I remember thinking that was really sad when I got to this movie, and I was like, oh, he's like way further gone now.
So yeah, Robert's super critical of this movie, and I'm just having a hard time going to that place. He says Will's father killing Norrington is one of the choices I don't think the movie really earns, and it isn't really addressed afterwards.
Oh, interesting. I see. I think that works because he's like fully given into the, like he's completely lost himself, and then you have like the kind of Darth Vader moment where he realizes what's going on in the third act. I think that's fine. I also think Norrington's death is really sad. That's a character that goes all over the place.
That's a lot of these characters, though, right? Like you
It is true, but he was like a British villain guy in the first one, then a drunken pirate in 2, and then a redeemed British guy in this one. Really, it's every state of existence a British guy can have.
Well, and didn't you say tell me if I'm remembering this right, didn't you say that by 4 and 5 they kind of do the same thing with Barbossa?
Yeah, he's a British captain in the...
I don't understand that.
It's very weird. He also has a peg leg in 4.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
Why did they make him a British officer? That's so weird.
And he wears a powdered wig the whole movie.
What?
Yeah.
Is it a
And
completely different kind of performance?
no, he's just Barbossa, but he's like powdered and he wears a wig.
I don't understand.
And like he becomes a pirate by the end of the movie, but like I've never understood why they made that decision to, other than just wouldn't it be funny? And like it kind of is, I guess.
Oh, I forgot about this scene. Where we really break down the kind of split between him and Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
About an hour before the wedding fight.
Well, he's not going to be in any scene with Elizabeth until the sand scene with for the climax after this. He's not going to have any time to talk about it.
But I do like the clear internal conflict there.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's got to pick between his father and his and the woman he loves. And it's a tough thing because I think a lot of people and a lot of parents would say, of course, like, don't pick me. I've lived a life, and you know you're still young, and like you need to get the opportunities that I had, or maybe the opportunities I never had.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, if you love your dad, and me being a person who did grow up with a great father, like I think that's a difficult call for a lot of us.
Yeah, when that they do set it up into like that, like where his dad's like, "Look, don't pick me. Like
Yes.
I don't owe you anything, or you don't owe me anything." Sorry. You know, when I think it's interesting too, because you can play it both ways, because it's the loving dad thing, or in this case where it's the abandoned father thing, where it's I never had a dad, now I have one.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you is, and that's one of the things I want to rewatch these to look for. I don't have an opinion on this because I feel like I watch these two spread out. But like, do you buy that? Like he cares about his father enough to make that choice, or to have as difficult of a time making that choice over Elizabeth?
I guess over Elizabeth, I don't know, but
because the way you just sort of justified it makes sense. I don't know how much of it that that's what it is. Where it's like I just finally found my father who was an absentee, but he was kind of absentee. So like,
no, I can understand that because I've seen that in the real world. Like that was my mom's best friend. There's like a whole thing where her dad like abandoned her as a kid, and then they met like a year before she died. She died of cancer. And it was like they like reconnected, and it was a whole thing.
Well, and that makes sense to me more with a character that has, and a person in real life, I guess, that has like, big identity issues where it's like I'm struggling to understand who I am because I didn't have parents, or I was missing a parent. And so I feel like one of the reasons that you would latch on to a parent you finally find again is because in some way you're still looking for yourself. And I don't know if this guy has that really.
I think probably to an extent, because there's like the whole thing where he's the blacksmith in the first movie, but there's that kind of nature nurture thing where he's got like the elements of being a pirate because his dad was a pirate.
So he's looking for a place, and he's
like I think that is definitely
man of two worlds.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I can see that more now that you remind me of that part.
Mm-hmm. And Robert, he's got to kill this guy. He's going to shoot him. Yeah, stab him. End colonialism. Dad.
Wow, Dead Fishman just stopped fascism. Did you see that?
That's the best thing about fish people is they're really anti-fascism.
It's really unfortunate that the fish people never joined the Allies in World War II.
Yeah, it would have been over a lot faster.
Yeah, we could have stopped the progression of Nazis much faster if we'd only gotten the fish people.
Exactly.
Okay, explain something to me.
Yes.
Why? I mean, I realize that he's dying. Why does he stab him in the shoulder? He just he just reaches out and he's like, ugh.
I always assumed that was in his chest.
It
did that
looks
look
like his shoulder, and then the way he yanks it out, I can't really tell where it went through. Because I think the point is supposed to be he doesn't have a heart, so you can't kill him. But it didn't look like he stabbed him where the heart is.
Well, even if he stabbed him in the chest, that's the wrong side.
Yeah. Well, if it's in the shoulder, you're nowhere near it.
Maybe he's just dumb though. A lack of oxygen had hit his brain by that point.
I think Robert's right on this point. He says, I just wish we got one conversation with Will and Elizabeth later over what happened with Norrington and Will's father. He's probably right about that.
That's fair. Well, and it also becomes that
look, man, we've only got 2 hours and 50 minutes. Okay.
But it becomes that Bucky thing, right? Where it's not the right of mind.
Yeah, but it is weird that those two characters don't talk about that.
No, the real answer is that it's probably not a scene that was in that extra 20 minutes, but maybe.
But I love that we stop long enough to have silly conversations like that when Jack's complaining that pirates aren't creative with their names.
That Larry joke is quite.
It's
good.
really good, yeah.
Yeah.
But in a huge epic like this, where we just go to like a literal end of the world plot almost, and then you can stop and not forget what the whole thing was about in the first place. I really appreciate that.
That's a big thing I like about the climax is that yes, it's this big epic battle, but it's entirely made up out of little character moments as opposed to just endless shots of people fighting. It's not like Endgame. Endgame has that, and it's got a little bit of those character moments, but I don't think it has enough of them. While this one, it's you have the wedding thing, you have a lot of those little moments with Jack and Davy Jones, and then you have the moments where they meet him.
Well, in an Endgame, it feels too staged.
And that's the other thing too.
Okay, so I don't remember if I talked about this in 2, so forgive me because I probably did, and I think the score was doing the same thing there, but the theme from the TV show Xena is just in these movies. But
oh, really?
Was
Zimmer on that?
I don't think so, and I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but it's the same melody, just not syncopated. So in Xena, the melody is dun 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 dun, and in this, it's that melody, but not syncopated.
Okay. Weird. Yeah, and I've never seen it.
And if you ever hear that, you won't be able to unhear it. It's very distracting.
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. This is what I say about all women too, the heathen gods.
Austin. I don't know why we're letting you talk about how progressive this movie is, about how strong of a female character we have.
Well, I'm just saying that
you don't even
that's
want that.
Cool and all, but I relate the most to Davy Jones.
I can't help but wonder. I can't help but wonder if what Will would look like if he also had a tentacle face.
Yeah, when you see him in 5 and they start making him look all fishy, and it's you guys missed the point of the ending. But okay.
No, I was gonna say that doesn't make any sense. He wouldn't have that.
Yeah, because the plot of 5 is the Will thing where Will's son wants to break him out of that curse.
Oh.
And then they set it up for Davy Jones to be the villain of 6, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, you had a 2-parter movie that you're not going to be able to top.
Yeah, there's no point in that.
Mm-hmm. It's very dumb.
But yeah, Davy Jones has that face because he's paying for going against his curse, right?
Yeah, it's because he's supposed to do his job and he's not, so it made him all fishy. But if you actually do the job, then you'll be okay.
You would just look the way you always looked because being dead is just not that big of a deal in this universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, I don't mind that because of the context of this. Like it's like Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm. No,
So,
it's exactly like that kind of.
a person is taken down to the underworld, and then you could go down there and bring them back.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, that's a lot of the stuff it's looking at, right? Not specifically Greek mythology, but I mean, that kind of mythology.
Well, it is. I mean, it's not taking stuff directly from that and calling it those things, but like the Kraken is very Scylla and Charybdis. Like there's a.
But I think Calypso comes from like that era of mythology too.
Yeah, well, a lot of the sea god stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I mean, that's just the Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and obviously a lot of this with Davy Jones' Locker and all of that. I mean, because I said earlier, it's weird to go to too much, not real world stuff, but stuff in like actual mythology. I guess Davy Jones is one of those things, but it's not. But I don't like making the main MacGuffin that, I guess.
Yeah, and David Jones is just, you take like a pirate myth thing, right?
Yeah.
Like it's
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is those myths from that period, like just a few hundred years ago, as opposed to going all the way back to antiquity, all of that stuff is in and of itself inspired by Greek myth and possibly some Norse and Viking stuff too.
Yeah. Well, I guess in that road, like, what do you feel about the main villain of 4 being Blackbeard? Like, just, I know you haven't seen it, but like as a concept, based on what you're saying.
I don't think that I mind so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because
that's like the Davy Jones.
That's
thing,
not that
right?
far away
Which
from
is
this.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah, where you just kind of take like a famous pirate.
I don't think I would like it if it was Long John Silver though.
Yeah, like Captain Hook.
Yeah, don't go to a. Well, Captain Hook is even weirder, because
it's Disney with Peter Pan. Not that Peter Pan's exclusively Disney, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but Peter Pan is a story with a pirate in it, not a pirate story.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, like
yeah.
But Long John Silver, that would be adapting a book, and you said 4 does that, but like I wouldn't really want to see the Pirates movies.
Do Treasure Island.
Go and adapt Treasure Island, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the book that they adapt in 4 is called On Stranger Tides, which is the title for that movie.
The title for that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you don't want Pirates of the Caribbean Treasure Island.
No.
Well, then it feels like it's a Muppets thing.
Which Disney also owns.
Yeah. Although Tim Curry, Blackbeard showing up, or not Blackbeard, Long John Silver. I don't know.
So you're okay with, just to reiterate from earlier, so you're okay with the Brethren Court idea, you just think it needed to be seeded, or you don't like the idea at all?
Yeah, my thing is, if you're gonna do it, like seed it, set it up in the second movie. Yeah, I don't mind that they do it. It's just
like suddenly we have pirate politics.
Well, it does lead to that great joke of like, this is chaos. This is politics. Well, and I think part of it too is I really like the scene. Like, I really like all the different captains. I like Jack's dad. I like some of the jokes in this. Like, one of my favorite bits is the shoot him, no, cut out his tongue, no, shoot him, and then cut out his tongue, and then shoot his tongue. You just said it. And we're about to get your favorite line in a few minutes.
Yep, it's coming.
There's a lot of really good lines in the sequence.
So Robert was asking earlier if I'd gotten my kids any toys for the Pirates movies. I have not. I don't know how easy those are even to get.
I
don't
don't even know if they make them anymore.
Well, I was gonna say, like, if I went back and got the stuff from back then, I don't know how expensive that is. Like, I don't know how collectible that stuff has gotten. But I was just gonna say, me personally, if I got anything, and I don't mean for my kids, but like, just if I was gonna buy one thing for myself, it would be an action figure of Elizabeth in her pirate outfit, because it is the coolest thing in the movie.
See, and if I were to have anything from this movie, it would be a statue of Davy Jones doing that tentacle kill.
Well, okay, now that you say that, anything at all, it would be
Or
like a giant
statue of the kid being hanged.
No, what we need is like the giant like Hallmark Christmas ornament of Davy Jones playing his organ.
No, I want the kid.
They need to make that
where it's got like the noose around it and then you hang it on the tree. The organ one is a good idea. I could see that as not even like a tree ornament, but like one of those, like you press the button and it plays the piano.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like Hallmark would make
Christmas,
like really
so
elaborate things like that they would
Yeah.
couch as a Christmas ornament. But you're not gonna put it on a tree or anything. You just set it on something, and then it's on a shelf or something, and then it's like
Davy Jones playing Feliz Navidad.
why do I have to wait until Christmas? What does this have to do with Christmas?
It's Davy Jones. He's playing Feliz Navidad on his organ.
It's like that is the creepiest Feliz Navidad I've ever heard.
That's really weird. I don't know why Davy Jones went to a Spanish song either.
Robert says they made an Elizabeth figure of her in that outfit that comes with that globe with the swords in it. That's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
See, that's what I want. I'm gonna look it up right now. Watch it be like
kid.
$400. I'm sorry.
The toy I had of Elizabeth as a kid is her outfit in 2, where she's got like the jacket and the hat and the short hair.
She's got a lot of good looks. I know I'm being really superficial with this, but like I really love this character now.
Mm-hmm. That's just great.
And the iconography is part of it. Like they give her some really cool stuff to wear.
No, and I agree with I can't remember. It might have been Robert. I can't remember who said it, but I've never understood the whole "they're boring" thing. Especially because then the sequels don't know what to do because they don't have them, and they're the protagonists.
No, that's a really good point. Yeah, that's the thing is, it's a triad from the beginning, right? I mean, it's Kirk, Spock, McCoy. It's not just Jack Sparrow. And also, I haven't seen 4 and 5, but you and I've heard other people complain too that like he really degenerates to just like the exaggerated cartoonish caricature of the like more. I don't know if nuance is the right word, but you kind of character going back to 1, and that kind of suggests that the movies shouldn't just be him, right? Like,
yeah,
and that's one of the big things I'm praising this movie for is it's not just him. Like they get away from the Wolverine X-Men thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I've always had it as just you can't do him as the protagonist. He's a supporting character. But watching through all 3 of them again, you're right. It is very much like a triad thing, where he's obviously not the main protagonist, but like he gets a lot to do.
He's just the popular one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, he's like the fun one, while the other 2 have, they're more kind of meaningful to stuff.
Yeah, and he feels more important because he creates the occasion for story.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the other
he's
thing.
The most proactive.
Jack drives. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is he drives a lot of plots because he's the most proactive. Oh, Cap, we're about to get your line.
Who's Boons? There it is. Utterly deceptive twaddle speaks, says I. Put it on a t-shirt. And up until now, I didn't feel like his dialogue was as clever and witty and memorable, and then he's got a couple lines from here on that are just as good as anything he says in the other movies.
Mm-hmm. Well, my favorite just depth line delivery in general has always just been, it is pronounced egregious.
Yes!
It's so good.
It is. That's right at the end. It is pronounced egregious.
There's so much venom in the way he says that. It's so good.
Like, his head has been about to burst. He had to hear her say it whatever stupid way she said it.
Yeah, I like how we don't even know how she says it.
No, I felt myself imagining and trying to figure out what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. No, it's a big part of what sells it.
I agree. Captain Swan.
Soon to be king.
Yeah, I feel like all of that should be too, like, ridiculous and loophole-y, but I kind of love it.
Well, I also love that she comes in and she's like, he made me captain, and Jack in the background's like, God, they're just giving that title out to everyone now.
Yeah, it's great. They just give it to anybody. Yeah, this is definitely one of the cleverest ideas in the movie.
This is another part of why I'm glad they cut that backstory thing, because his dad's like one of the head pirates at the stable.
Yeah.
Like, what?
So he doesn't need a major motivation to become a pirate in the first place. It's just in the family.
Yeah, like, clearly this is how he was raised. Like, it's a long line thing.
Yeah, I found that figure. Boy, I'm tempted. I don't know where I'd put it. Like, it's not like I have pirate stuff.
That is true. You can put it on your 66 Batman set.
It's Captain Elizabeth Swan hanging out on top of the atomic pile.
Exactly, yeah.
That's so good.
She's throwing Egghead down it.
Matthew Bass, we must fight to run away. Yeah, that's a great motif, too.
Yep, that is pretty good.
That's what he does. And then he's got to try to live forever.
Well, I think it's just in his genetics. His dad's Keith Richards. He can literally snort anything and he'll live.
That's amazing. Okay, full disclosure. I did not understand that was supposed to be his dad until you said that.
They're very subtle. There's never a moment where he's like, hey, Dad. The big telling point is just when he's like, how's Mom? And he whips out her head.
Okay, because when you said it at the beginning of the commentary, I was completely confused.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm not paying any attention to these movies, apparently. When did his dad show up? What are we talking about?
No, I mean, it's subtle. He's never like, hey, Dad, what's up? This is my father.
The penniless Frenchman.
Yeah, so one of the telling points is that his dad stops playing guitar to see what his son does because he knows he's going to do this.
Okay.
Which I didn't catch until watching it today.
I know that actor that's the African guy or wherever.
Yeah, he was on 24. He was
on 24. Yeah.
I think it was either the TV movie or the season right after it.
No, it's the TV movie.
7.
And he's great in that, but it's a really boring TV movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know what? Maybe he's in both.
He might be in both. He's also at the beginning of Origins Wolverine.
Yeah, and he gets typecast as villains a lot. But
and like African warlord guys.
Yeah, African warlord guys.
He is in 24 as well.
Yeah, he's an African warlord. But but he's a good character actor. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm. No, he's cool.
He's got a real memorable I love his voice.
Hmm. Well, the guy who has the best voice is that guy. We must go to war.
I don't love that joke.
I just like it because it's the girl from Poltergeist.
Hey, look, his dad is Carlos Santana. If he was on a lot of drugs.
So Keith Richards.
Keith Richards if he played Carlos Santana music.
Yeah. Keith Richards if he took a little less drug. The head he pulls out is peak Keith Richards. He's on his normal
That's
drug.
right. Okay, you know what? In the moment, I got that was his dad because of the, your mom's head thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then I promptly forgot about it, I guess.
Yeah, he's only in one scene.
He's in that one scene. Okay.
And then he shows back up for 4 and then doesn't come back in 5.
Yeah,
they get Paul McCartney instead.
Angel there in the comments said that.
Mm-hmm.
Are we about to get our 45-minute action sequence here?
Yeah. So this is one of those big complaints that everyone complains about is we bring 2 armies and then we only have 1 ship fight from each side. But the fight is so much more memorable for it that I don't care.
Does it work to just, you just know that those other ships are probably also fighting? Like,
no, because it's literally the armies are on each side and they send 1 ship forward and then they fight. The pirates win and then they all go home. It's literally the armies do not fight in any way.
That is what they do. But you don't mind it.
No, and I think as a kid I was like, yeah, that's true. Like, why aren't all the ships fighting? But as an adult, I'm like, I don't need the Rise of Skywalker. Like, all the ships are there. Like, it would have been so much more, just all over the place. Like, this movie has such a great climax. Like,
I thought this '80s electric guitar showdown music was curious.
This is just straight up like the good, the bad, and the ugly music.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder he
That's
did a
true.
Western next. I don't think it was directly after this, but like not long after. Although I think Rango's after this, so no, he did do a Western right after.
Because this sounds... God, that CG is so good.
Yeah.
Like, right up in his face. Like, that's amazing.
Have you ever seen Rango, Cab?
No, I haven't.
Oh, God. I was just wondering, because that's like a CGI movie, and it looks so good. Animation
I've always heard good things about that, but I remember the previews when it came out, and it just looked kind of nothing to me, so I never bothered with it.
Yeah, I recommend it. It's really cool.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's like a very adult animated movie.
I like the bit where Jack also looks to the left.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, his hands were clean, metaphorically speaking.
They really like their barren, empty Long Island shots in these movies.
Oh yeah, they're like, look, we went on a location. I don't know if this is a location. It's probably not.
It's probably not, but they always come off, kind of ominous and almost surreal or ethereal.
Mm.
To the point where I almost wish that was the setting with Jack in his purgatory, as opposed to the obvious blank white void.
That's fair.
I just had that thought. That would have made that stand out a little bit. You know what else is very Matrix about this? The thing you just brought up, where 2 huge armies show up and it's just the 2 ships fighting, because that's exactly what we do at the end of Matrix Revolutions. With Neo and Agent Smith, you've got thousands of Agent Smiths, and they all just stand in a line and watch one Agent Smith fight Neo. It's exactly the same thing, except Neo doesn't bring an army.
Yeah, when they don't fight around a maelstrom.
And that movie, like Matrix 2 is a little bit more like this, where it just goes to the nines with like wild imagery and creativity and stuff, and it's like a million plot points. Mm-hmm. And then 3 is just dull and boring. And I want to say 2 and 3 are sort of flipped in that way with this, except I don't think 2 is like overall horribly boring, but it's got some stretches where I think it lingers too long.
When two's got that thing where we go off on like a little side adventure for a good like 40 minutes, like with the whole cannibal thing.
And this franchise doesn't have the problem that Matrix does, where it feels like it has to, uh, like, kind of neuter its protagonist or change the rules for how the world works to even make more movies.
Hmm.
But it does have that weird thing we were talking about where it has to add a whole element it never talked about before. So that's a little bit like Matrix, but it doesn't break the universe like Matrix does.
No, it's just kind of weird. We're like, really? This never came up? Okay.
Well, you and I talked about this off camera. It's like the X3 thing, where all of a sudden there's classifications of mutants, and we'd never talked about that before, except that's made by a different team, and so they're just doing their own thing, and this is the same people doing it.
This is the one bad effect in this movie is Johnny Depp sitting there.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I think it's the lighting. Like,
why are we still doing this? I don't understand it.
So that we can have this cool wall jack.
Oh.
That licks his brain.
But, like, has he been... Oh, I didn't notice that before. That's gross. Has he been... Here's what I want to know. Has he been hallucinating himself this whole time, but we just don't always see him do it?
That is possibly. Because it's not like we've had really any alone time with him.
Honestly, I would like the whole thing better if we had one scene where we got it from other characters' perspectives, and he's talking to himself, and they're wondering who the hell he's talking to.
The first time I saw it, and you have that bit at the end where he says the egregious thing, I thought that's what was happening until I realized it's him calling out things that they'd said prior.
Well, and he seems to have been cured of it by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure what cures it.
Completing his character arc.
Clearly. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh yeah, Angel, that's one of my favorite bits too. The "Do you fear death? You have no idea." When they're on the beach.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's almost like a double entendre.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he's afraid of dying. He's always running away, like he wants to be immortal.
Mm-hmm.
But he also has now, like, I guess a couple of times, like, kind of. Well, I was gonna say he's kind of been dead a couple times. When he's cursed that first time, he's not actually dead, right?
Yeah, he's not technically dead, but he does get stabbed through the chest. So, like, yeah. But then he's also talking to a scary fish man.
So I was gonna say he would also be afraid of what death is, you know, itself is like, right? Like it's like it's like literally like being afraid of literal death and being afraid of dying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. We're coming to the scariest part in the movie, though.
Yeah.
This was just one of those like few things as a kid I could not handle. I was like, that's way too far.
I guess I like giving the guy with the fake eye like a little character moment.
Yeah, no, I do too. Especially because they're only there for comedic relief.
It does feel a little arbitrary though, where it's like I guess he's got a thing for her that came out of nowhere.
He's just really horny.
Well, like all of these men are. Like,
That's
it's
true,
a bunch
yeah.
of men on a ship that never get to see women.
That is
Like,
true.
It's shocking that
But
nobody.
Barbosa at least has his monkeys, so like that guy is like more so.
It's shocking that like nobody else ever like forces themselves on Elizabeth.
I mean, Jack contemplates it in the second one.
He sure does.
And he would have if it weren't for the fact that he got the black spot.
Look, I'm not saying it's okay, obviously. I'm just saying I'm surprised it doesn't happen.
Look, he's a pirate. That means it's okay for him to break the law. his backstory was deleted.
That makes it okay for him to take advantage of women?
No, his backstory was deleted. That means it's okay for him to break the law.
Oh, right. Women. Boy, I'm glad they got rid of that, man. I was worried for a minute that I missed something and it was actually in the movie.
Yeah, no, when I first saw that scene, I was like, I don't like this.
This looks so good.
Yeah, it does.
When she's huge. And this, more than anything else in the movie, feels like a massive callback to Harryhausen stuff.
Yeah, like Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah, because he does giants and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, she's scary.
I mean, that's just like your classic adventure thing is giants.
Also, we need to give, I don't know her name, we need to give this actress
Naomi
props.
Harris.
She's so good.
She's really good, and her accent's like flawless. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when she starts talking, so I'm like, and she turns into rock lobsters.
My bugs!
Oh my god. It's the opposite of It's Raining Men.
Well, I'm sorry, Austin. I think the opposite of raining men would be raining women.
What's raining a woman that became crabs?
That's the opposite of. Well, what would the giant man that exploded be raining down? Bugs?
Oh, you don't want to know. I can't talk about that outside of After Dark.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I forgot what this was rated.
Yeah, so you can only go so far, like hanging children. You can't go any farther.
Oh my god.
But yeah, Naomi Harris is one of those actresses that I wish got more to do. She's great in Bond, and that's about all I know her from outside of this. She was in Venom too, sadly.
God, that's not okay.
I remember there was a rumor a while ago too that Keira Knightley would be the leader of the Authority, and I'd be down with that too. I think that'd be cool.
What has she done recently?
Mostly like indie stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched a movie with her the other day. It was like the Boston Strangler came out last year. It was like a C grade Silence of the Lambs, but she's good in it.
She's got to be what, probably 45 by now, yeah? Maybe 50?
No, I want to say she's like probably like 40.
Is she?
Looks, I don't think she's fully 18 in the first movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think she's like 17 when they film it.
I didn't know she was that young.
Well, and she's one of the she's like the kid Amidala fake one in Phantom Menace. But she's not that far off from the first Pirates.
Okay, what do you think of the speech?
She should be talking about how it's our Independence Day. I don't know. I think it's fine.
I think it works.
It's like the greatest speech or anything.
No, her performance is good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, like it's pretty. You know, it's kind of heavy-handed or whatever, but
yeah, I mean, she delivers it.
But it also feels like probably the thing she needs to say to these people.
When she's getting everyone to raise their flags to not do anything.
That's true. I'm sure glad we brought all these people here with us.
This whole, like, we cut back to the captains thing, especially when they win and they do it, celebrating, reminds me a lot of the ending of Guardians 2, when the captains come in for Yondu's funeral.
Yeah, it's weird sorry, I was just looking at the comments. If she was 17 when she did the first movie, that means she's my age. I figured she had to be a few years older than me, but she's not.
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess that is true. Oh,
That's wild.
that's Robert Wild.
Angel says we're in the climax already. Wow, love rain in movies. Yeah, pretty convenient that it just starts raining when this big climax happens. But that's
It's
a
not
movie trope.
convenient. It's the rock lobsters.
Oh, is that what it is? That makes it rain?
Yeah, because she's the god of the sea. She
Oh, that
makes it storm.
okay. Fair enough. She's like Storm. She makes it storm.
But I guess it was.
Oh, I
Gore Verbinski
forgot.
that
Yeah, he
insisted
looks up
on
and
it
says
being
Calypso,
rain.
and she's okay. I guess I could pay attention to the film.
Yeah, Cap. What have you never seen Star Wars?
See,
He's
it's the
pissed.
it's the yell that Davy Jones does that reminds me of Voldemort. Where I'm like, when
Okay.
Voldemort does it, it's stupid and I'm laughing at him, and when he does it, it's cool.
There's also the fact that he doesn't walk around going like ha ha ha. But neither of them have noses. That is a thing they have in common.
Yeah, but at least his is being covered up with tentacles.
Yeah, that is true.
Poor Ray Fiennes or whatever his name is.
Yeah, well, he was also in Daniel Craig Bond. It's all connected, Cap.
Who was he in that?
He was M in
Oh, that
After
is who that
Skyfall.
is. He had a nose in that. I didn't recognize him.
Exactly. He's also the killer in Red Dragon, the prequel to Silence of the Lambs, and he's really good in that.
What did he just say? Duck capped apes or something?
He yells noises.
I don't know what
That's
any
my-
of that means, but it's
That's my
great.
favorite thing about Barbosa is he usually yells things.
Would you agree that Barbosa is, in a weird way, sort of like Magneto in the X-Men movies? In that, like, he's our main bad guy for the first movie, and then now he's just, like, part of the cast?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Because he never goes back to being a full villain either.
No,
like
and he
Magneto,
doesn't
so-
full on, lose his characterization or motivation or anything, but we just kind of, like, learn to get along with him and tolerate him.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Robert put in his CLI super chat and wants to know what our favorite side character is. He says
His is Marty the
Marty
dwarf.
the dwarf. Yeah, that's what he said.
That's at the beginning, the part where he fires the big gun and he goes flying back.
Yeah, that's great.
That joke and just all of Mini-Me and Austin Powers is the reason why I think midgets are really funny. Like it ruined me for that. But
I don't think I have an answer. I gotta think about it.
yeah, who would
Because
my
I just don't know these movies well enough.
Oh, mine's the Key Dog. I love the Key Dog. Well, Caps is the woman that can't say egregious.
No, that joke's great.
Is this your boat? No, that is a dinghy. Oh, actually, yeah. If I were going to a human character, it would be Gibbs. Absolutely. I agree with AMC.
See, he's enough of a supporting character. I didn't know if that counted.
I would say that counts because he's always like there, but he doesn't get a ton to do. He's one of the big things where if you were gonna make Jack the main character of 4, I wish it was more like a buddy thing between the two of them.
Is he
But
still
he kinda-
there?
He is, but he kind of comes and goes. Like he'll show up for like a few minutes, and then Jack kind of kicks him off the adventure. And the beginning
I'm
of that
gonna,
movie is he's gonna get hanged, and Jack comes in to rescue him.
at least for this movie, I'm gonna go with the main Asian pirate guy. I really like that guy.
Oh yeah, what's that actor's name? Chow Yun Fat.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's great. He does that thing that the main guy in Seven Samurai does too, where he's bald and he does like the head rub.
Yeah,
It's really cool. I like that.
that stuff just gives this movie a lot of character.
Hmm. Well, and because I kind of mentioned the Return of the Jedi thing, he's kind of like your Jabba the Hutt in a way. We're going to him at the beginning to help get Jack back, except obviously he's not the one that has him, so it's not the exact same.
Yeah, but then I was already thinking about Jabba the Hutt a little bit with uh, Davy Jones,
Hmm.
just because he's kind of got the bounty over our character's head.
Yeah, when Davy Jones is like a weird Jabba slash Vader thing, because he's also like the main like physical threat too.
I also blame the fish people.
I say that every day. I hate fish
I
people.
love how there's this whole argument about whether he's racist against fish people. It's so good.
I think this is the thing that people complain about too, is that they brought these guys back from the first one, but I don't care. Their bit's funny.
No, in the difference between this and like a modern or like a recent Marvel movie is MCU would take a scene like that and just go on too long. It would linger too long.
Yeah, and they would be
The
like
pacing
main
is right.
characters. Like they would be hanging out because they become pirates at the end of this movie. Would have been pirates at the start, and they'd be there the whole time.
Well, and it would have undercut like a serious tense situation. Here we just cut away from the intensity to something else for a second.
Davy Jones dies and gets to them, and it's like, "Do you still hate fish people?" Even though he just died.
Yeah, exactly. We don't even get a chance to process what just happened.
Yeah, Davy Jones hasn't even fully reacted yet.
No, I think that's a better way to do levity, and it's not subtle or anything. It's just
Yeah,
appropriately cut in and
it's
out.
kind of like your old school Hollywood kind
Yes,
of
that's absolutely what it is.
adventure. But this is what I like about this climax: is yes, it's very long, but it's not just like endless, mindless fighting. Like it's all of these like little character beats.
Yeah,
It's something interesting is happening through most of it.
it's pretty well paced. We don't lose the two big important things we don't lose are our characters and where everybody is in proximity to each other, right?
Hmm.
Like it all follows.
Yeah.
I probably said this in the second
Mhm.
movie commentary, but this is my favorite Sting in the score with all these movies.
Oh, it's so good. This is just some of my favorite cinematography, and like this fight's so cool. Everything's cool in this. There's a shot later on too. I'll point it out when we get there that I learned from the behind the scenes stuff. Where it like switches from being fully digital to actual Johnny Depp, and it's like so seamless that it blew my mind that it half of the shot was CGI. With the two of them fighting on top of the
It
mast.
just feels like it's thoughtfully done,
Hmm.
and it's even more impressive when you know how much of a crunch time they apparently had.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. This is one of those movies I think last year there was like a VFX article showcase thing where it was like, here's all the really bad situations, and they mentioned this movie specifically to say that the worst thing that this movie did was Disney made all these demands to get it out on time, and they did,
Yeah,
so that
is
became
that
the
that sets a
standard.
precedent that tells them
Yeah.
they can rush it, they can force it.
Hmm. Yeah. Exactly. Well, and in the behind the scenes thing, I don't like. Obviously, maybe it's like a marketing thing that they said, or maybe it's genuine. But they talked about how this was the biggest um, effects work that ILM did after Return of the Jedi. Like, where like everyone that worked there was involved in this, and it, like took up all of their time.
This is just stupid romantic. Like I don't care how dumb this is. I love it really got me when because I didn't remember this.
Hmm.
And when this starts and he proposes, I thought we were leaving it there. Like I didn't know they were gonna get married in the scene.
Yeah, when I was a kid and I saw this, my mom was like, "That's so stupid and cheesy," and I was like,
It
"Yeah, I
is
guess that
cheesy.
is." Like
I
my
don't
my mom
care.
said that, so like I don't like this. And then I got older and I was like, but this is awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it is stupid and cheesy and awesome.
well, and I think one of the reasons it spoke to me so much this time around is like I'm really sensitive to this now. I feel like a lot of these kind of movies, I'm gonna use the same phrase I did at the beginning of this, just don't have they don't have enough like enough blood running through their veins. Like,
Well, you know what it is too, Cap, is it's stupid, it's cheesy, and it's earnest.
yeah, and I miss that.
Like
We're too cool
nobody
for
is
school
stopping
to
to be
do this
like
kind of stuff now.
nobody's stopping to be like, you're doing a wedding? That's dumb.
Yeah,
Like we're in a fight. Fight instead.
there's not this irritating self-awareness about it.
Yeah, and I think the movie knows that this is silly. Like I don't think the movie is
No, and that's another way in which
No.
it's old Hollywood about it.
Yeah, like it's very classic. It's very classic and epic, and I like it.
And like I'm getting to a point
Well, it's also
where
nice because they're not going
I'm
to
excited to
fully
have
end up
love
together.
stories in an action movie in the first place because it feels like we're avoiding it so much now. And I don't understand that. But I'm sorry. What were you trying to say, Austin?
No, I just said it's also nice because I agree with what you said, but it's also nice that like they're not going to end up in a place where they're like always together. It's like it is
No,
nice that we get
this is
big,
even better
like,
because it's tragic ultimately. So
this
yeah,
is the shot. So when the rope passes by them, it turns into a physical shot. But before the rope passes by them, that was entirely digital.
wow, that's
It's crazy.
awesome. No, that's amazing.
It blew my mind. I was like, wow, okay.
I didn't know that. No, that looks amazing. No, I love the audacity of the wedding thing because yes, it is cheesy, and then the last thing you expect is
For it to become a tragedy.
he's gonna not only die, but he's gonna be in the place Jack is supposed to be, and I have to work on that ship as a ghost. Like,
Yeah.
it's even worse than if he just died. And like I think that would seem sappy and not as well earned, right? Like if it was just we got married and then immediately you got stabbed. That would be kind of Spider-Man 3, right?
Well, that's the
Like with
I
New
have 2 days
Goblin,
to
it'd be like,
retirement.
oh, old pal, old buddy, and then he dies immediately after that.
Yeah, that's your like I have 2 days till retirement. Oh, I died.
Yeah, it's way better than that.
Mhm.
No, it's much sadder because it's bittersweet. Because they do
Yeah.
still get to see each other, but only once every 10 years. Like, that's way worse.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully we never made a sequel to undo that.
Yeah, that's good. But he shouldn't have a fish phase.
Yeah, no, because that would be dumb.
So are you saying they do totally undo that?
Yeah, by the end of 5,
I couldn't tell if
they-
you were being sarcastic because I don't know what happens in those movies.
Oh yeah, no, I was being sarcastic.
Oh,
The plot
no.
of 5 is they like break out his curse by the end.
Come on now. I don't want to watch those.
It does the exact same Force Awakens thing, Cap, where Will shows up like a little bit, like he's got like maybe 10 minutes of screen time. Jack is the one that goes on the main adventure, and at the very end they go to an island and Keira Knightley walks out, has 0 lines, and just looks at them.
You're kidding.
No, it's like the exact same, like down to you can tell like Jack is Han, Will is Leia. And
Didn't that come out like the year after that movie?
2 years, 2017.
So it was directly influenced by that? Oh no!
Well, and one of the big twists is, this main character that is the love interest of Will and Elizabeth's son is Barbossa's daughter. And, like, they do, like, all that stuff.
No way.
Yeah.
But people hated that stuff. Why would you...
It's rough.
Why would you treat it like the new tropes that everybody's invested in? And I don't understand that.
Well, it's really weird because the whole tell that she's his daughter is that she's obsessed with astrology. And they're like, Barbosa loves astrology. He's a captain. Captains have to know astrology. And it's like, that's never been a thing.
No, if they did, that's hilarious.
Like, it's so random.
No, I'm sorry. I was just laughing at what Jack does with the tentacle phase.
Oh, I love that. When he
It's so
screams.
good. Where he's in the middle of this battle, he's just too creeped out by the tentacle phase.
Well, I also love that he starts to go through it, so he spins it. And he's like, "Ha! Like I got you."
Depp's reaction is when he just goes, ah! It's so
Like I
good.
said, this climax is so full of great little moments.
Yeah, it really is. Because how easy would it be to just like completely lose these characters and not have any investment in anybody, and it's just a lot of firing.
It's just like endless fighting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and it isn't that. It's completely. I mean, I don't want to say completely character focused in that we're doing a lot of, like progression and building of stuff.
but
Well,
we're
I mean,
doing
we
a
are- I
ton
mean, we
of like
are, I guess,
payoff
with the
stuff
wedding
too.
stuff and whatever, but
We're doing a lot of character payoffs. I think is a lot of it.
that's what it is. Yeah. Because like it is a big set piece, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But we're finding ways within that to make it about these people. He can't get his sword out.
I hate it when my sword's bent through a dude. Why does that always happen to me?
I may have bent the tip a little.
I'm glad you caught what I was picking laying down.
I'm gonna
You know
miss
your
the
villain's
Simpsons.
cool when he just has like bent sword through his chest and he's delivering a monologue.
He just keeps going.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a motif now. Do you fear death?
You have no idea.
Hey, look, it's MacGuffin A-1.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is a payoff we've been waiting for 2 whole movies.
Yeah, stab
Like-
in the heart.
5 hours, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Because you knew this would happen eventually, and this is the way in which this does feel more like an extension of the second movie, where it's not a true trilogy. This is more of 2.
Well, and it's also cool that Davy Jones's sword that he gets from Norrington is the sword that they introduce adult Will on in the first movie, where he's like, "Here, I built this sword for you." So like, there is like a follow through of things.
AMC is taken up for 5. He says the plot of 5 is not actually that bad. Will still missed out on like 18 years of his son's life, and the character of Henry Turner works and his motivation to free his father, and that leading to him seeking out Jack sort of replicates the first movie's dynamic between Will and Jack.
I mean, that's fine on paper, but it's also like Diet Will.
So he just doesn't even feel like the same character?
No, I mean like his son is like the
Oh, I
Diet
see.
Will
I see.
story.
Sorry.
No, you're okay. Because I can also see where you think that I meant him. But no, it's just like a less interesting, less charismatic guy being like, "I gotta save my dad." It's like we did that. Like I didn't need to do this again. And I also don't hate 5 as much as other people do. I think it's got like a couple good action scenes. But like it's one of those movies where character wise and story wise it's a disaster.
Well, I also think it's weird to do a legacy sequel like that, where you treat it like we haven't had one of these in a million years, but it's only been 10?
Well, yeah, it's 10 years after this and 6 after 4.
Yeah, so it's only been 6 since the last one that came out. That's weird.
And Depp's like completely lost it in that movie. And
You
part
mean,
of
like,
that is,
what do you mean he's lost it? Like he's not committed?
well, I think so. I think that is probably part of it because it's like right in the heart of the Amber Heard stuff. But like he acts like he doesn't remember how to play this character anymore, and that
Oh, wow.
his performance is kind of baffling. Like I spent the entire time in 5 being like, Can he die? Like,
Well, now I'm half curious, but then a part of me just doesn't want to know. You know what I mean?
hmm no, at least 4 has like the mermaid stuff. That stuff's really cool.
It would be nice to have one franchise like this that is not. I don't know. I don't want to use the word tainted, but that's all I can think of.
Well, the nice thing
By
for me is that
crappy, pointless sequels we shouldn't have come back and made that don't appreciate or understand the original material. Like, you always have the stuff that was there before, but it does kind of suck to like come back and revisit it, and it's not at all what it was. Like, I'd love a franchise that just nobody ever touches.
yeah, I
Like Back to
agree.
the Future. It's nice that I've got at least one, right?
Yeah. One Pirates is very similar to Indiana Jones for me, and it's the exact same thing in that you have a trilogy followed by 2 really bad sequels. But both of them I don't have the like, oh, you ruined it thing, because I got to see them right off into the sunset. Like, it was over. Everything after that's a mulligan. I don't care.
Well, and you probably have what I have with like New Trek and things like that, where when you come back, if you didn't really need any more, it's hard to even think of it as part of the same thing.
hmm
Where it almost feels like it's in the same medium with some of the same actors, but it almost feels like you made the like cheap TV show based on the thing you like.
Oh yeah,
Or
absolutely.
like the cartoon show or the video game or
When I definitely have that with the Pirates movies, because Verbinski leaves and all of the style that these 3 movies ooze is gone.
yeah, that's rough.
So it's like, oh, like it is the kind of Disney straight to DVD sequels.
So does it get real rote, real paint my numbers? Like,
Yeah, like it just kind of looks like every other movie now. Well, the director of 4 Cap is the guy who just did the remake of Little Mermaid.
but Austin, that's just good business.
Exactly. And the writer of 5 is the guy who wrote the remake of Lion King. So, not that he had to write anything for that movie,
Like
because
you
it's
could
just the
see,
Lion King.
wow, that's crazy. You could see I don't want to watch those. I, but yeah, you could see the story of this with the with Beckett's side is like an admonishment of uh, big corporate business like Disney. Like, it's always weird when you get a Disney movie that seems really kind of anti-Disney. I'm getting that from this a little bit.
hmm
And before we all really, really hated that company.
When it's especially interesting now, because Verbinski's career is basically dead. Like, he's been trying to shop a new animated movie around for like the last few years, but
That's
no one's
really
picked up
sad.
on it. Yeah, it was a mix of, I think the last 2 of these didn't do super well critically. The Lone Ranger bombed, and then his last movie, The Cure for Wellness, bombed.
That was him?
Yeah, which is a movie everyone at the time hated, and everyone I know that's seen it thinks it's great. So I'm like, I should probably watch it because I like Gore Verbinski.
Yeah, I may have to check that out. And of course, that's a very different movie than this kind of stuff, right? Like,
Well, that's probably I think that's more in line with like The Ring, 'cause it's a horror movie.
oh, is it?
I think so.
I didn't
Yeah,
know it was a horror movie.
I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong because I've never seen it. That was always my assumption. But
I thought it was some sort of like quirky drama, but
I could be wrong. But I
but
always
I
thought it was a horror.
but I have no idea.
Oh yeah, that's right. Angel Castaneda. He almost did Gambit at one point,
Wow. And I
which is
keep
fascinating.
and I keep calling back to X-Men with this. It would have been nuts to see him play in that sandbox.
Yeah, and his Gambit would have looked so cool.
Well, I would have loved him for Nightcrawler, but
Yeah, that would have been great. I want to see him do Man Thing.
also
There's a whole
he
pirate
likes.
arc in Man Thing that's just Pirates of the Caribbean.
Here's the thing. He likes with these movies and with Lone Ranger a couple of protagonists with a big supporting cast. I think giving him a big team superhero movie would have made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You
Hell,
know,
do it
like
now.
just give him
DC.
actual X-Men or something like that.
Hmm.
He should have done New Mutants.
Oh, his New Mutants would have been awesome.
It would have. This is insane.
Yeah, this is as like crazy as that wedding scene, and that it's just awesome, and it's so in your face, and that like literally all of his plans blew up in his face.
Like, what did he think was going to happen? Well, that's not fair, because, I mean, obviously, there was no reason when he came into this to think that the underdogs had a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But
Just good business.
it might have helped if it wasn't just one ship versus another ship. You know, somehow I didn't notice that when I watched it this week. I wasn't even thinking about that.
See, all the ships are leaving now. They're like, oh crap, they won.
Were they all just taking bets?
Yeah, I guess so. That was a big thing. Like everybody complained about that when this came out, but no, we're better off for it, and I stand by that.
I just love that Beckett's walking down the I can't even talk right now. He's walking down the staircase and the railing is exploding as he's touching it. Like, it doesn't even make literal sense, but it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. I saw a video today. I'll send it to you after. It was like they edited different clips into that sequence. So it's like everyone attacking him. Like they do the shot up from '89 where Batman's targeting the Joker. And he's targeting the ship.
That's so great.
It's so funny.
That's really funny. So, like, is this guy proud of his son?
Yeah, he's like, he won. He gave us freedom, and I didn't have to fight.
I like this bit too. You can throw my hat. Now go
Now
get
go
it.
get it.
And Gibbs' look is great, where he's trying to figure out where it is.
Yeah, and just the look of being super excited, and then it all deflates.
That's great.
It's so great.
I like Will's
that's
pirate
what he
look.
gets because he's gonna lose the ship in a few minutes, anyways.
I do think they could have maybe done something cool in another movie where Will comes in and like doesn't break out from the curse or anything, but just is involved in like somebody else's story somehow.
Yeah, you could have done that.
There might have even been a way to make him a villain of a movie.
Mm-hmm. That'd be interesting.
And like actually get to see him go full on pirate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that would, you know, kind of undercut, you know, his like noble reason for doing this, but
Well, it just depends on what you do with it. Because you can make him an antagonist without him being like, Davy Jones evil.
yeah, he doesn't have to be a vengeance bad guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it could just be, whatever the plot is. Like he's on one side and the main characters are on the other.
Yeah, like something gets in the way of his ethical code, or like his ethical code says I have to be on this person's side of something.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, Elizabeth has a super cool outfit.
Yep. And she's got to have her goodbye moment. And she'll miss you most of all, Scarecrow. I mean, Jack.
She's gonna click her heels together and
live on an island by herself for 10 years. She just walked by Marty the dwarf. She didn't even say bye to him. He's just there.
Okay, can I ask you another really stupid question?
Of course. I live for those.
When did she have a chance to get pregnant?
This one day. Right now.
Oh, is that what you were saying earlier?
Oh, no. We're about to have a shot.
Oh, okay. I must have forgotten about that. Just one. Well, that's easy.
Yeah, it's like right after she's pregnant now. It happened.
Okay. So That was supposed to imply it.
Yes.
Okay.
But we're about to get a shot where he's like making out with her leg, and we cut to her face, and there's like an implication of like an oral sex thing, and it's like crazy they got away with
It's
that.
well, that's what I thought. It was an implication for a second, but then it cuts so quickly.
That's
Like,
probably all you could get away with at this point at Disney. Like, the fact that there's any of that is insane.
she's got that face that I guess is supposed to be like anticipation of it, because when you cut back, he's not moved at all from where he was with her leg.
But also, if you cut just from that face to the ship and then to this shot of him walking away, that would be like when touchdown.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what I'm saying, is that would have made it like way worse. They should have done that. I wonder if they could have gotten away with that.
Yeah, I don't know. But like to me, it's crazy that they were even able to go that far with it.
So here's the thing. I did not get implied sex. I got they were working their way up to it and it hasn't happened yet.
Oh yeah, no, I think they were doing it all day. So
Okay.
they have one day.
Sure.
That's all they do. They don't talk anymore.
Well, they don't have any time.
Yeah. Plus, what do you have to talk about? It's like, oh, what were you doing? Oh, well, I sailed the seas for 10 years. Okay. What were you doing? Well, I lived on this island for 10 years. Want to bang? Okay. They don't have anything to talk about.
We just realized we really love each other, but all we did was all these adventures. We don't really have anything else in common.
At the end of the day, is that not what true love is?
All they do besides that is debate about whether or not a relationship with her and Jack Sparrow would have worked out. That's all they do.
Well, it's that, and they debate what it would be like if he had a tentacle mustache and they kissed.
AMC says Will's fate isn't all tragic in that he at least gets to spend a lot of time with his dad, but can't be with his wife and son. Yeah, what if he ultimately learns that he hates his dad? Like, they haven't actually spent any time together.
Yeah,
Like,
but what if he learned he hated his son? At least he can kick his dad off his ship.
okay, Robert says the scene starts with Will putting his clothes back on. I didn't catch that.
Well, it's him putting his boots on. They were knocking boots.
Well, yeah, well that I mean, he might have just been, putting his feet in the sand, Like, I don't know.
I mean, I know it's subtle. I mean, Jack has syphilis, and they never come out and say it. Like, that's what that thing on his chin is, that like red scar.
Oh. Is that what that is?
No, it is, and it gets bigger in each movie because his syphilis is getting worse. That's like an actual thing.
Are you making this up? Or...
No, that's like an actual thing in the first movie that Depp talked to the makeup department about.
My ship is gone. Go get it.
That is a dinghy. Oh, we're getting my favorite line.
Of course it makes you look fat. Egregious. It's great. That's one of those lines where I want to know how many takes it took.
I want to know, like, if they did other takes, like, was that improv? Like, did he say other things?
I bet so.
Because that's one of those lines where you could easily just be like, okay, just say things.
Yeah, Gibbs' look when he slaps him, were like, I deserve that. That's
He's
pretty
like, I
good
lost
luck.
your ship. Yeah, fair enough.
This movie does a pretty good job of not having people rambling when a look will do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's surprisingly good at that for being such an action-driven movie.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know, it's really weird going back to this because I didn't expect to like it so much more than I did in the theater.
Well, I was fascinated to see how you would react to this, because this is a very divisive movie that's, like I said, been reappraised more in recent years, but like people hate it. This movie's got like a 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like,
yeah,
people hated it when it came out.
I see why it's being reappraised, and again, I think I'm having a hard time not comparing it to more recent things where it's just lively and trying different stuff, and
Some artistry involved.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's flawed, sure, but I don't care.
But that's what I have with this and Lone Ranger. Like Lone Ranger is also a very flawed movie, but it's great. I love it.
This is definitely better than that.
It is better than that. Um, there's like I think a line where like these movies maybe get like a little bit weaker, and then Lone Ranger instead of starting over kind of goes from the third Pirates movie, if that makes sense.
That's the problem with it.
Where it kind of carries on some of the writing issues of these movies as if it were a sequel to them.
And I wish it were directly adapted Lone Ranger and wasn't like going like I don't know, going its own way and contradicting stuff for no good reason and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I talked about that. I have a review about that. You can go watch that. I have
we'll
feelings. I don't remember what they are
on
anymore.
The Rewind Project.
Yep, we'll get to that eventually.
Jack cutting out the chart is great.
Yeah.
He took Chartman's only thing.
He's looking at his cell phone.
Oh, he is, yeah. He's playing Brick Breaker.
Also, I don't think I knew that there was an after credit scene with this movie.
Yeah, all three have after credit scenes. I can't remember if 4 and 5 do.
Well, we must have watched all the way and watched them. I don't remember what they are now.
Well, 1 is just the monkey going in and stealing a coin, which is why it's still undead in the sequel.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
2 is a shot of the dog as like the chief of the cannibals. And then 3 is Will's son. So like this is the first one where it's like a meaningful after credit scene.
Yeah, but the first one matters because otherwise you're like, why is this monkey undead?
Well, and I didn't see that scene for years, so I was always like, why is this monkey undead? This doesn't make sense. Did they just do it because they thought an undead monkey was funny? Because I mean, it is.
Now, I'm confused about that curse.
Mm-hmm.
Is it having those coins or is it spending them?
No, it's just taking them out. Like once you take one, you have to like put the blood in it. Or maybe because they broke that curse, maybe you just have to put the coin back. But it's the fact that the monkey stole it.
Because I thought the problem was like if you were greedy and you took it and then you spent it, then you were cursed.
No, it was just if you stole the gold. Because that's how Jack gets it, is they're all hanging out and he like sneaks one of the coins.
At World's End. I wish this was the franchise's end, am I right?
At World's End. I wish the world ended in real life that year.
In 2007?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I don't. And I would have never gotten married.
You would have died having only seen Spider-Man 3.
Oh, hey, tell everybody about the crazy Tom Hollander thing.
Oh, yeah, I saw an article the other day. The guy who plays Beckett in this movie is named Tom Hollander. And he was like, when Infinity War came out, they sent me Tom Holland's residual check. And it's like the biggest check I've ever seen. They just sent it to the wrong guy.
I get that mistakes and errors happen, but that's insane. Like...
Well, it's because he's Tom Hollander than Tom Holland. So they were like, well... They would have sent it to Tom Holland, but it doesn't exist. So they had to send it to Tom Holland.
He's more Hollander!
Yeah.
Wait, where was Keith Richards?
He's Jack's dad. That's weird that he was before the cast.
Okay, so, I didn't realize that was literally Keith Richards.
Oh, no, that was literally Keith Richards.
When you kept saying that, I thought you were joking.
Was joking? No,
yeah, he looks like Keith Richards, but that's actually Keith Richards.
Yeah, and then his uncle in 5 is Paul McCartney for no reason.
Oh, really?
His dad's Keith Richards because Johnny Depp's doing a Keith Richards impression. So it's like, you know, cutesy.
So they went, oh, we have to just keep putting in famous rock stars?
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, Jack, it's me, it's your Uncle Jack." So this is dumb.
That is dumb. And why would he
Whatever.
have the Cockney accent?
Because he's just from Liverpool. He's Paul McCartney.
He's the he's the Liverpool pirate lord.
Yeah,
He's that 10th like unknown pirate lord from Liverpool.
exactly. And he's also named Jack. I think it's like the whole joke in that scene
Oh really?
is it's like, "Oh, it's
Everything
your
about
Uncle Jack.
both of those
Oh,
sound
hi Jack, it's
terrible.
me, Jack."
Every time you say
Uh,
anything about 4 or 5, I shudder a little bit, and I'm a little dead inside. You know, I'm starting to turn into a undead skeleton guy.
mhm. I mean,
Robert, I have not
yeah.
shown my kids this movie yet. I didn't have a 3 hour stretch I could just sit down with everybody and watch this, but I will at some point.
Mikey's gonna be like super excited when he sees the tentacle kill. He's gonna be like, "Yes."
Yeah, Mikey will love this movie. He loved both of the others. There's no way he won't like this because if he's not bored by 2, he'll be riveted by 3, right? Like,
Hmm. Oh yeah, like,
and
I
I'm
feel
not
like
saying
that
2 is horribly boring.
blows
I'm just
my.
saying like for a little kid, like this is wall to wall action. It never stops. Like
Mhm. Yeah, there's a lot of like setting things in motion and stuff in two.
I say, it never stops. I mean, I was praising it for those moments where we do have a little bit of downtime, but you know what I mean. Like it's a lot of action set pieces.
Mhm. Well, like really big action set pieces, I think is the big thing.
It's crazy how well paced that last climactic action scene is, considering how long it goes. I know
Yeah, no,
we
that's the
I know we
big
keep
thing that
talking about that,
and
but the
Lone Ranger have. Like, they're both they completely nail that.
yeah, it's masterful.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah, anybody that hasn't seen Lone Ranger, just watch the big 10-minute climax at the end. I mean, it's one of the coolest
Yeah, even
action
if you
scenes,
just
and
look it up on YouTube, like it's really cool.
it's really cool.
And the
And
Zimmer's rendition of the Lone Ranger theme's great.
that piece of score, yeah, it hits me in a place every time, man. Like
Yeah. No, and
that is a
he's
classic piece of movie score that nobody knows because that movie bombed, but like it's brilliant.
mhm. He drives his horse onto a train. It's awesome.
They should have called that Lone Ranger Begins.
Yeah, I mean, that is basically what it is. It's Batman Begins but mixed with weird Gore Verbinski things.
Exactly, and still with a Zimmer score.
Hmm. Yeah, he must have just loved working with that guy. 'Cause I think Zimmer does Rango, maybe, I think.
This bit is like carousel music.
I was thinking that earlier too. It's a cool rendition of that Hoist the Colors song from the
It
beginning.
is.
And I like how they like put that song into score like throughout the movie. It's really good. I know Pirates 2 and 3, I think I said this in the last one, but I like two of his best scores, I think, for me. Like they're really good.
So I think because this just seems like an obligatory conversation we have to have. Just with
Yeah.
this as a trilogy, that movie is undoubtedly like the best story and script because it doesn't get to the insane convoluted place that these two do. Like just as a movie, it's the best movie. But I definitely like this movie better than the second. And I think
So I do
there are
just
places where I
because.
think I'm more entertained in this than I am even with one.
Oh, okay. I mean,
But I'm
I
not
can
gonna say
understand that.
I think this is a better movie.
No, one's a tighter movie, but I can understand that because like they're building so much. Like the action in this movie is better than a lot of the action in the first one, which is also really good. But like,
And I think I also just really
top
latched
stuff.
on to the mythology stuff in this movie. Like just
No,
how like sort of Greek myth it gets, the way we were talking. And I mean like the
well, especially if you like if Elizabeth's your favorite character, like you know, her arc, like by the end, is really great.
Well,
So.
that's the thing, is she's not my favorite character until this movie, and then that makes me feel weird about, which one is my favorite, because I'm like, you're absolutely right that there is a kind of consistent arc that happens with her throughout, even though the movies get less and less tight as they go.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, even with me, like, I can't tell you which villain I think is better between Barbossa and Davy Jones. Like, they're both so good
I can't either.
that I can't put one over the other. Like, they're both great.
Well, that is super fun because we kind of pit them up against each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. If only we had another sequel where Davy Jones married someone. But it didn't happen.
That was also a pretty quick watch for a 3-hour movie with us talking over it.
It rolled by, especially because, like, I finished my rewatch like an hour before we started. So I love this movie, and I knew I wouldn't be bored. But like, there is that part of you where you're like, I just watched this like not that long ago. Like, I hope it doesn't drag in places because I just watched it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Well,
no, that flew by.
Because I made that case. Yeah, I was a little bit worried about you with that. I was like, well, you just finished it? Okay.
Like, yeah.
But
Round 3.
But I was suggesting at the beginning of this that the right way to watch this is kind of in 3 sittings, and then I know we were talking over it, but like you and I just watched the whole thing. It did kind of fly by.
Mm-hmm. That's always moving. Which is my thing with Verbinski. Like, no matter what you say about him, he's never boring. I don't think. Anyway,
There's some scenes in Lone Ranger.
Fair enough.
Like that movie is all over the place pacing wise.
Oh, that movie's absolutely all over the place, but that's part of what I love about it. It's insane.
But it's a better story than I gave it credit for once I lived with it for a while. But I didn't latch onto it initially. So I mean, it's definitely real flawed. Like it doesn't grab
like
you
I
in the
said,
way
like,
you want it to.
That movie needed to be the first Pirates and not the successor to Pirates 3, like in terms of its storytelling.
Angel Castaneda, man, we didn't get drunk with rum. I gotta tell you though, I do really appreciate that didn't happen because I have to get up in like 6 hours.
Oh my god, Jinkies.
So it's probably for the best that I'm not gonna have to worry about the potential of getting hungover.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little bit concerned about that. But I wasn't gonna come in and be like, I'm not gonna drink, because we had that going with the other 2 movies.
I mean, you could have said the rum was gone.
That's probably gonna be the only way. That's true. I could have, but that would be a lie because here it is. But I would I would think that's probably gonna be the only way to get through 4 and 5 if we ever did 4 and 5. So I would definitely keep that going with those movies.
So Disney Plus is like, you may also like Pirates 4, and it's like, will you play it right now? And it's got the description. The description for it that they have on here makes it sound like a rom-com. When Jack crosses paths with a woman from his past, he's not sure if it's love, or if she's a ruthless con artist using him to find the fabled fountain of youth. That's a little rom-com-y. I get that's the plot. But...
Can we do a stream one of these days where you just read plot synopsis like Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, sure.
I think we need to do that video.
I specifically want to read the one they have for Venom on Disney Plus because that's the best.
Okay, so this is a really odd phenomenon, or I can't even say phenomenon, like coincidence. I don't know why this happened. And I don't like to talk too much about like our audience count or whatever, but we started the stream tonight and we had a pretty decent crowd, right? Mm-hmm. And then we got in the movie, and about 10-15 minutes in, it dropped down to like 5 and then 7 people watching with us. Mm-hmm. We just finished the movie, and immediately it jumped up by like 8 or 10.
Oh, weird.
Like
people were like, we don't want to hear you talk about it. We just want to hear the bookend.
Yeah, and then, and I don't mean to make fun, but Nicholas Bodo comes in and he says, "Hey, Cap and Austin, thoughts on At World's End?" We just
I
spent
have no
3 hours giving our thoughts on this movie, and you're like, "Okay, please summarize now."
Well, Cap said something about how the only thing he's ever been entertained by truly is hanging children, so he liked
Oh
this movie.
no, that's not true. Robert says this didn't get as crazy as the previous Pirates commentaries, but you guys did have some great conversations. No, this wasn't. This is pretty sober because I was sober.
I don't remember two getting super crazy. I remember one did, because I remember afterwards you were like, "You can't tell how drunk I am," and I
Yeah,
was like, "I think I can."
one was real off the. Yeah, no, I was about as. If you want to see real nutty Cap, I was about as out of it as I've been on stream. I think.
And then after I left the call, Cap was texting me, and he's like, "You won't guess how drunk I am." And I was, again, even though he told me that on camera, and I was like, "I can tell you're pretty drunk." And
Wasn't I like? I just barely got up a staircase.
No, yeah, you were like, "I could barely get up the stairs." And I was like, "Yeah."
You made me sound really proud of it too. Like,
that's how I read it. It was like,
I just barely got up the stairs.
"Man, you won't believe it."
I think if you want to go back and see me just completely insane, I think it's that, and then I think the Christmas party 2 years ago.
Oh yeah.
I think that was about as wild.
Yeah, well, that was when we did karaoke for Chumbawamba.
Robert, this was honestly a fun time. I was worried Cap wouldn't like this one. Yeah, actually,
I wasn't sure we were gonna land on it.
Yeah, and I don't want to say dreading it, but pretty sure I was gonna, be in the same place I was in '07, where I was like, it's off the rails. I can't take this seriously.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, like I said, that's how everyone reacted, and I was 10, so I was like, "This is the most earth-shattering, awesome thing I've ever seen." And obviously, I'm an adult now. I don't have that, but like it is really good. It's a mess.
I think,
certainly.
Yeah, but I didn't care. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think the word of the night is earnest. I think you're absolutely spot on about that. No, and that is what these things are missing right now. It just feels like people showed up and they made and they had a really good time. And they made a thing they really wanted to make, and it didn't feel like a thing that was assigned to them.
Mm-hmm. There was a moment I was watching the behind the scenes thing, and I don't know if it's like right before they started shooting like the big ship battle at the end, but like they were kind of between those like giant ships, and like they built them huge. Like if you look up the set, like they're giant. And Gore Verbinski's with a lot of the crew, and he's like, "Okay, everybody, like, just stop for a second and look around and just like appreciate that this is the biggest thing any of us will ever work on."
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, pretty much. But like, it was like a really heartwarming moment.
Just because you built big sets and you spent a lot of money doesn't make the thing good. I'm not saying that, of course.
No, and I don't like that's obviously not what he meant, but it was like look at like, just how much work like's been put into all this.
Yeah.
And it was like I said, it was a moment with the crew. Like it was like everybody stop and appreciate what you all did.
Robert, I'm just surprised Cap liked this one more than the second one. Now, again, keep in mind it's been a while since I saw that. So like I may have had a different response to this if we did it immediately after 2. I don't know. Or if I'd watched them in close proximity like you did. But a lot of it was about Elizabeth.
Well, it's taken me like years to appreciate 2 more because, and I talked about it on that one, I think, that was the only movie my middle school owned. So whenever we had to watch a movie in school, it was always the first 50 minutes of Pirates 2. So like for years it was like, oh my God, I can't watch that one anymore. So like 3 rose over it to me in that time. And it's taken me like now to be able to watch it again.
Well, so. and you said off camera you thought in some ways it's kind of a like better structured Return of the Jedi. I don't know that I disagree with that.
Yeah, well, the big thing is, obviously with Return of the Jedi, you spend 40 minutes getting Han back, and then he does nothing through the rest of the movie, and neither does Leia. And Pirates 3 has that where it's like half the movie's getting Jack back, and then he's like a really important character. And like the main Trinity all have a thing to do.
Well, yeah, and everybody's got those great character moments we were talking about in the same big climax. They're not split off in 4 different places.
Yeah, because Return of the Jedi is like a brilliant movie if your name's Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Like everything with him is perfect, and then Luke and Leia are like,
We just
they just kind of trail off.
We just keep cutting back to them doing something because they're major characters and we don't want to lose them. But it doesn't feel like we really need to be seeing any of the stuff we're seeing with them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you can really feel that Harrison Ford doesn't want to be there with the third Star Wars. And I like Return of the Jedi, but that's another movie that's very flawed. Like I like it despite its issues.
Yeah, and even as a kid, I didn't love that one.
When
it's fine.
Thing,
it's a good end to a franchise, or to a franchise, to a Trinity or trilogy, I guess. But I can watch the other 2 in a vacuum, and I only watch Return of the Jedi if I'm watching all 3 of them. That's the big difference for me. Is like I'll just throw on Empire.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. No, because I mentioned structure. Like the issue with Return of the Jedi, I think a million people have said it, is that it's 2 movies stapled together. Like you have a really good rescuing Han, Jabba the Hutt, like 40-minute movie, and then you have a very muddled Ewok adventure movie that then has the end of the Empire stuff, which is all really good with Luke, but.
Well, and if you'd been able
it doesn't all come together as a whole.
I never had this thought before. If you'd been able to realize it as 2 separate movies, of course, then you'd have the John Wick thing, right? Where you'd have a standalone film and then a trilogy. If you'd been able to do that, you could have realized. You could have spent some time maybe realizing Leia with her force powers in her own right. That would have been the thing to do with that.
Yeah, I feel like you either you do that and you fully separate them, and they would never do this because it's Star Wars, but like it's all on Tatooine. Like you finish the Jabba stuff, and then Darth Vader and company show up and attack them, and it becomes like a holding down the fort with everybody left in Jabba's palace.
Oh, sure.
And you like handle all of that there.
But no, they wouldn't have done that.
No, they wouldn't have done that because you would completely lose the Star Wars aspect.
Yeah, and you've got to have. They wouldn't have made it like a one-room thing. Like you have to go to all these different locations.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, now we're on to Star Wars.
We're just reviewing Return of the Jedi, but I love it. World's End.
Real quick, speaking of, and shockingly, I think I do too. Mm-hmm. Certainly that climax, and it is a lot like Lone Ranger, where that climax is unbelievable. But the difference is the rest of it, I had a lot of fun with more or less also. Mm-hmm. Whereas Lone Ranger has some sloggy things and just choices I don't like in adapting that material. So that's got different baggage with it because
of course.
Pirates is more or less inventing something in the first place. Like, okay, it's based on a theme park ride, but
that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. That's like adapting a painting, right? Like, you started with like a thing that's not even a narrative thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
But real quick before we go with Star Wars, because I meant to make this joke earlier. When you said, and you blew my mind with this, by the way, that they just did Force Awakens with 5. I was like, okay, if you did a 6th movie, I don't think I got around to saying this. If you did come back and do a 6th movie, I wonder if it would have opened with him like taking the compass and just throwing it over his back.
I mean, they do it in 5, basically. So
do they really?
Yeah, because the first act plot point is he's a bum and he sells his compass. Like that's his version.
Oh, that's true. No, you did say that, but I wasn't thinking about it like that. Oh my god, I was just trying to think like what would the lightsaber throw be? It'd be the compass.
It'll be his ship in a bottle, but they get it out of the bottle in 5.
Oh my god. Well, Austin, I had a blast doing these with you, man.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I won you over on these being good movies because I know this was very much a me thing on doing them in the first place.
Yeah, I don't think I would have thought to do these, and like I just didn't feel qualified. I wouldn't have had a lot to say about them without
It's
you.
very self-indulgent on my part, so thank you for letting me have
Well,
that.
not any more than anything I do. I mean, it's
Mm. But no, I'm glad people seem to like when we did them, so I'm
no. I'm
glad
really
people
glad we
enjoyed
did
it.
that because you knew so much. Like I learned a lot
Hmm.
doing this. So thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, no, I love these three movies, and 4 and 5 I put up with.
Happily, and maybe eventually we'll do one or both of those if people want us to, but happily we've now knocked out another project. This is what we set out to do. We did these three. Eventually we got to finish Terminator. We've got, are we in the middle of any other frame? I guess Jurassic Park if we ever get back to that.
Yeah, well, I feel like we're at the maybe one more for Terminator, but for like Jurassic Park, Pirates, and Terminator, we're all past the point of the ones anybody cares about. Except for
That's true.
Terminator, we did one extra one.
Because Jurassic Park, it was just that one. And there's like 5 people that want me to do Jurassic House, but at this point, I could almost just do Jurassic House in a vacuum. I don't know that I actually have to do everything up to that, really.
Hmm.
But I don't even really have to do that. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, and like with this, like I don't know if there's really any interest in 4 and 5. Like, I guess if people want it, we can do 4 and 5, but like, it's not a rush or anything.
Yeah, and Terminator, like, we always talked about doing Salvation, but like, and I kind of want to do Gen IC as like maybe a blind watch. Maybe
Yeah,
that
'cause
would be
I've
the way
never
to do
seen
that.
that.
Because I think it
I've
might,
never seen the last two.
because it might be amusing to get your reaction, and I just won't do Dark Fate. I'm sorry, forget it. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
I hate it so much. You know what? Robert makes a good. But if 4 and 5, maybe the way to do 4 and 5 would be blind.
Yeah, that's not an awful idea.
I mean, he said drunk streams, but I'm uh,
I feel like you would enjoy 4 more that way, blind, talking over it.
probably
Be-
so.
I don't know about 5, but I feel
I'm
like
translating drunk stream to not preparing first.
I feel like 4, if you were like taking shots every now and then, and you'd never seen it, we were talking over it, you'd be like, "This is not too bad."
And then if I ever actually sat and watched it, I'm like, oh,
Oh,
so
it's kind of boring.
so the way to enjoy this is to not pay attention to it. Okay.
Oh yeah, dude, that movie's structured so weird. You know how these first 3, it's like they're always on adventures and
Yeah.
stuff and things. 4 is structured.
Yeah, they're always on adventures in these pirate movies.
Yeah, in 4, they're Jack Sparrow's running around England for 30 minutes, and then they're on a boat for 30 minutes, and then they're in a jungle for the last hour.
Oh no, that sounds
Why
like
would you not separate that? Like, it's so
God,
weird.
that sounds like Rise of Silver Surfer or something.
Hmm. Yeah, no, it's baffling.
Angel's not been around enough on the channel to know what Jurassic House means. That's the second Jurassic World movie. Half that movie takes place in a house. I've called it Jurassic House forever.
Oh yeah, and then you call 6
Jurassic Plague.
Jurassic Plague. Well, I call it dumb.
a house